I feel like we should have more moon technology or some shit. You know what I'm saying? I think shit is like flying up from the ocean to the sky.
It's like surfing in some oil spillage. Inhaled like a whole bag of goose feathers.
I worry primarily about whether there are nightclubs in heaven.
Like on the Rogan podcast, only.
That's probably exactly what he was going for. He also.
That was my influence. I've been watching so much Joe Rogan lately.
Joe Rogan.
Whoop, shit.
Okay, so I know that this gets controversial all the time because people talk about just different stuff. But one of the people who I watched on his podcast and then started watching his videos, Jordan Peterson, this professor from
Yeah,
Ontario.
he's a hot person to hate right now.
Yeah, he is. But you know what though? Like, I know that some of his topics and stuff are crazy, but like his perspective on like trying to help people and like trying to like what we could potentially do with psychology, I think some of his points are right. But then he also like is super insane on gender and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know enough about who you guys are talking about to weigh in. So Ian, feel free to dive in on this one.
Yeah, I've watched some of the Jordan Peterson episodes on Joe Rogan too. Sometimes he gets a little loony, but like where I sympathize with him is like I think there's chronic illness issues in his family. Like his daughter has rheumatoid arthritis, and he went down to a paleo diet, which my mom and I had both tried.
Yeah.
I forget because like there's a lot of different things we're trying, kind of coming and going. How did the paleo diet work out for you guys?
For mom, it gave her some relief temporarily. Like she was only limited to chicken and spaghetti squash for a while.
Oh yeah, I remember like whenever I would make pasta, I would have to like just microwave spaghetti squash or like cook it in like an oven with foil and water, or like peel zucchini into strings as a pasta alternative. But like I just realized I kind of don't do that anymore. So I guess she kind of stopped. So it stopped working.
Well, since she's been on Zolor, she's gotten more foods back.
Oh yeah, that's right. Kudos to Zoller. Anyway, we're about 3 minutes in, which is just about the time that we usually introduce the guest.
Sometimes it's as long as 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sometimes it goes up to 10 minutes. So kudos to you. You got it earlier.
Life
Brett,
is cool.
Hey, everybody say hello to Brett. Thanks for joining us.
Hi guys.
Brett and I used to work together as camp counselors. That's how we met. You were the head boys counselor at Fox Mountain.
Yeah, working at a summer camp is a lot of fun, but it's also the best birth control you'll ever need. Oh my gosh.
Yep. Every day of the week.
It's 3 a.m. in the morning. Your kid is sick, and by kid I mean one of 12 from different houses and families, and then you have to solve the problem, and you're just like, I just want to go back to bed. I was dreaming about Lady Gaga or whoever. I don't know, someone. Yeah, something fun.
Yeah, but it wasn't even the sick stuff for me for the most part. It was like I would have a kid who was rereading Harry Potter for the third time all the way through. And he was insistent on rereading it, and he was super into the book that he'd read for the third time, and he wouldn't turn his light off.
Shut off the light
at 1 a.m. and it'd be like, Craig,
and then it affects
all the names are replaced,
and it affects other people.
It affects me because I'm awake.
I feel like this would be a perfect analogy for it's like that person who you're going on the freeway and there's like 30 cars in the line and that one person just tries to jet over at the last minute. Mm-hmm. It's like all of us are waiting.
Oh yeah,
who are you? Who are you, bro?
I've driven La Jolla Parkway before. I see about 10 people do that.
Yeah, I don't like to. I try not to make judgments at this age in my life, but if you do that, you're an asshole.
Yeah, there are certain behaviors that very, without any nuance whatsoever, very much show your general disposition towards how you act around other people.
Yeah.
And like being that level of selfish and careless, I feel like you can pretty much feel okay making a snap decision about somebody when they do something like that.
Especially with like cars and stuff, because like you can cause an accident, and it's like, it's like that, that person gets injured, there's insurance and stuff like that. And it really just, all it takes is your part of realizing like, hey, like you drive this commute, you're going to be in traffic. Like until we invent the flying cars, which where are they? Like
my favorite thing to do when stuck in traffic is look for the people picking their noses.
Oh.
Yeah,
especially if you can make eye contact and let them know that you saw.
Did you get anything up there? Was there any gold?
Dude, if we're stuck in traffic together, you can just look to your right, and I'm there.
Yeah. Oh my god.
It just happens,
Oh,
man.
brotherly love.
But yeah, like I do feel like there are like these weird small like moments where you just learn something about yourself or grow as a person from driving. Like you're not even aware of it until after the fact. Like just little lessons you learn. Like sometimes you have to just let stupid people win and feel good about the fact that they won.
Yeah, and not, when people go road rage, like I used, 10 years ago, it'd be like, like I'm so pissed at this thing happening. But it's like, now you're driving, you're in traffic, and you're mad. Like, if you didn't get in an accident, let it go like 10, 15 seconds later.
I mean, like the one that really drove that lesson home for me is like when you're driving and the two lanes merge. And it's supposed to be a zipper. It's one on the left, one on the right, one on the left, one on the right. It's simple. But some people just speed right ahead and will not let you take your rightful spot. And then at that point, you just got to be like, okay, you're risking both our lives for this. You're an idiot. I'm going to back out and let you have it. And he's going to be like, yeah, I did. I'm like, I don't want to die over just being 20 feet ahead.
For 10 seconds more of getting home or whatever else.
Burned $1 of gas doing it.
Oh, my God.
So, yeah, you just got to let stupid people win.
It must be even more nerve-wracking for truck drivers when people are zipping past them and they have
and no one lets them in. You got an 18-wheeler. You wonder why it's so stressful driving a truck.
I work in a bobtail truck, and let me tell you, drivers do get bothered by that all the time.
Yeah.
Also, you learn this in driver's ed, but like you really learn it after the fact when you see a driver get pissed off about it when another driver does it. When you're driving ahead and you're trying to like merge to the side to get in front of a truck, make sure that truck you can see it completely in your rear view mirror.
No, totally.
That's the amount of space you're supposed to leave for a big truck.
Well, I think also a couple of things. One, it's a good thing I'm not dictator of the world, because if I was, less people would be driving and the driving test would be impossible to pass, because I don't want, Joe Schmo going on the road who like is on his cell phone, picking his nose, eating food, texting, maybe putting on makeup, because these days and age, you just don't know like what's going on. It's fine if that's the case.
Just call me out by name.
You know what? That's fine. Yeah.
If I was in charge, I would have every able-bodied person ride a bike for a year before getting a driver's license, because then you pay a lot more attention to pedestrians
and how things are going
around you.
I mean, Brett, let me tell you, every single driver who works for Goodwill Industries of San Diego would vote for you if you ran on that platform.
It's just, I think it really, I'm not saying it would solve all of our problems, but I know.
I mean, traffic fatalities, that's a big problem.
Well, then you get onto like self-driving cars. Like, are they really going to are they going to stop in fatalities and stuff like that? Or because there's still people who are self-driving, would that be worse?
I mean, like up until recently, like as they've begun testing self-driving cars more and more, there have been more complicated incidents. But I believe for the first couple of years, all the accidents involving a self-driving car were caused by somebody else who was self-driving their car.
Yeah.
So it was. Yeah, it was still all human error up until a certain point. Like, I remember hearing on the news recently about how a self-driving car failed to recognize something too late and then hit somebody, and that was entirely at the fault of the self-driving car. But that's the first one, and they've been testing this stuff for years.
It's like people are just so paranoid about robots and stuff, which I think rightfully so, we are to a degree. But all it takes is that one accident, and then people are like, see, self-driving cars can't do it.
It only takes a few accidents to tarnish it.
Yeah, and then people are like, oh, no, it's not possible. It's like, dude, how many people, of regular cars and whatever else?
Millions. Yeah, I mean,
the
like...
issue that people bring up in the middle of the country is, like, they wouldn't trust a self-driving car or a self-driving truck to navigate snow correctly.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I get
that's
that,
actually like if it was doing the science of trying to turn the wheel or this or that, but you'd have to program it to where it had the best human intelligence possible to know like when you start swerving to let go of the handle, or I'm pretty sure it's you let go of it to not, because you don't want to overcorrect, I think is one of the ideas. But yeah.
I mean, like,
it's worth talking about at the very least, right?
I mean, the overall, like that, like legitimate criticisms like that aside, people are very quick, like you said, they're very quick to dismiss the technology as dangerous because of one bad thing happening, and they like every time you see a news headline about self-driving cars or about some new thing that Boston Dynamics made, there's always somebody who just puts a fucking Terminator gif of like the robot skeleton stepping on a human skull, and it's like, okay, yeah, I get it, you're afraid of technology, but like, I've never really been that afraid of technology itself. I'm afraid of like the implications of what humans can do to each other with technology, because we invent it and then we make it either benevolent or we make it dangerous.
Yeah.
Like we've made technology that can mine data like crazy, and shocker, people who are in control of it more often than not use it to exploit people.
And how many people how many people see a meme or something like that and they take it as like, oh, this is like but the ultimate truth, and it's like, dude, someone
they're Snopes guys.
Yeah, right? Like someone took the meme and put a message on it that you agree with. It doesn't mean it's objectively right.
Yeah.
It's like memes are like the new political cartoons, but they're not.
Because everybody loves
every politician has a dank meme stash.
Everybody loves getting
Bernie Sanders. Oh my god.
Everybody loves getting the last laugh. And if you just throw like a dismissive meme out there, then that makes you feel like you can just sit back in your chair and go like, yep, I got the last laugh. Conversation done.
Yeah, I need to get better. Yeah, I fully admit this. I need to get better of, if there's a meme and it tries to actually do it to statistic, it's not like comedy or something like that. I need to make sure that I research what it's saying before I actually post it, because sometimes I'll post like 4 or 5 in a row because it's 3 a.m. and this is what I do with my life sometimes. But it's right? But it's like you're like, you find some comedy ones and you want to post them, but it's like, sometimes you post something and then you look later on, you're like, oh wait, that was actually completely false. But we don't take it down or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, like, bottom line with this whole issue of like new technology and new stuff that people are afraid of, I'm not really into the idea of like being afraid of technological advancement or any kind of advancement out of hand. I'm more concerned about like us being sure that we're being ethical and we're being safe about how we employ technology, because it's all about what we do with it.
Yeah.
Like I even, shameless self plug. I talked about this. I touched on this in my webcomic Solar, where it just boils down to the line like, I'm not afraid of drones. I'm afraid of the people who put guns on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the idea that drones in another country creating a war, a war that people don't, oppose, like they would have maybe opposed Vietnam or something. Mm-hmm. The drones go over there and a ton of civilians are killed, and they're like, well, yeah, but USA. And it's like, dude, you don't, this is taking any humanity that would be in war.
Oh yeah, you can do it from miles above. You can do it from miles in the sky where nobody can actually see you even. And I'm like, it was heartbreaking. Like I've looked up news about this and like firsthand accounts from people who live in areas that get frequent drone strikes. Yeah, and they just say stuff like, "Yeah, I'm afraid of clear blue sky now. It terrifies me." And I'm like, fuck, something that simple is terrifying.
I think
we fucked up bad.
On John Oliver's show, they showed a news clip from Pakistan of a drone report in the weather report.
Yep. Oh yeah,
60% of drones today.
Yeah, it looks like Sunny and Droney. Yeah, back to you,
Sunny.
Tim.
Oh,
his name's probably not Tim.
No, his name probably isn't Tim, but he's. Oh my gosh.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Well, at least you know what, John. At least he can make it amusing and funny, because like, oh man, like some of that is just
he doesn't shy away from the harsh facts, but he somehow makes them funny anyway.
Yeah.
Which is tragedy plus comedy equals time, and as more tragedies come to us faster, the time between tragedy and comedy gets shorter and shorter.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like
stand-up comics.
A melting pot, just like America.
Yeah, stand-up comics can now do bits about mass shootings right after the shooting in Las Vegas. The time period has gotten much shorter between tragedy and comedy.
Definitely.
Can we go back to talking about the color coding of Star Trek uniforms? 'Cause we were talking about that before the podcast started, and it was a much cheerier subject where I just showed how much of a fucking nerd I am.
Sure, no, I could definitely talk about other topics that aren't like morbid.
No, it's a roller coaster. We either start light and go heavy, and then go back to light and back to heavy, or we start heavy and then we go up to light and back to heavy.
It's roller coaster of life.
Roller coaster.
I just was thinking that. Wait, wasn't that in that was in Beavis and Butthead?
Yep, that was where I first heard that song. It wasn't the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It was just a Vegas lounge.
Yeah, and they're like, you have the cartoon like
where all of them
look
look
like
like
getting
Gene
it on.
Shalit.
Yeah, or like
I love the trippy Rob Zombie animation.
Yeah, where they're like dancing. They're like, whoa, cool. Like, oh my god,
it's always great when like in an animated movie, there's like obviously a moment. There's like a scene or something where clearly like the director or whoever just got somebody they're a fan of and said just like, okay, here's a couple minutes, do whatever you want with it.
Or they got bored and wanted to spice it up a little.
Yeah, because either way, that's what happened with the Rob Zombie bit. They were like, we don't know what to put here. Let's get Rob Zombie in. Or they were like, Rob, we're gonna take these 2 minutes of mushroom trip from the movie and just turn you loose on it. Do whatever the fuck you want.
Alice in Wonderland, Lewis Carroll. A lot of people say he might have been on some stuff because he, like, when you look at Wonderland, you look at the Alice eating the mushrooms and then drinking the potions to get taller and shorter and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And the Cheshire Cat and then the caterpillar smoking hookah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, dude, yeah. Who are you? I don't even know.
Lady with a giant head. Yeah. It all sounds
Oh,
very much,
the queen?
Yeah. It all just sounds very much like what you experience when on various drugs. And considering that cocaine used to be in Coca Cola, it's really not that surprising. You can just kind of stumble on drugs back at the turn of the century.
Yeah.
They would fall out of a friend's boot if you kicked him in the leg.
Fewer drugs were illegal.
Yeah. People didn't know what most of the drugs were. You could take drugs and not even know it.
Yeah, dude, you do the Old West and you like the mining towns and the western towns of Arizona, California, Nevada, and all that. Like, drugs were like the opium dens were like real things. And it's like, you're like, that wasn't too long ago. Yeah. Now they're illegal, but now you also look at it, if you look at the side of like marijuana being illegal, just like heroin, it's like, is marijuana really the same as heroin? Like, I don't really do narcotics and stuff, but like,
they're not.
I mean, I drink, but
yeah.
you know,
yeah, they're not the same. And to prove it, I'm high right now.
that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, because it's true.
Yeah,
but
it's more fun sometimes.
Oh yeah, but like you go back in time and you see like all these crazy ads. Like I said, Coca Cola used to have cocaine in it, and I think Ian, you found an article that said that
it still has coca leaves.
It still has coca leaves.
A company extracts the cocaine, uses it for pharmaceutical purposes, and then they give the decocainized coca leaves back to Coca Cola.
Be prepared for your 43-hour day at the factory with this energizing elixir made with the exotic coca leaf.
They used to advertise Coke in the 40s, 50s, and 60s when they all the Leave It to Beaver and Brady Bunch cartoons, or not cartoons, the TV shows.
Yeah. They were basically
where they were like,
oh,
just enjoy a Coca Cola, go have a nice Coca Cola, and it was like people were like, oh, I think I'll have a Coke, and it was like, do you know what's in that? Like now,
I mean, it's Coke.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what I find interesting?
And the
about
original
Coke?
Serving size was 6 ounces. It wasn't like the 12 or 16 ounce bottles or cans.
So maybe they actually understood that, like all the sugar and stuff.
Yeah.
Like maybe,
But then toothpaste was invented. And they were like, "Fuck, we can get away with more now."
Yeah, dude,
it'll
seriously.
take longer.
Yeah, I don't know if you know this, but Coke. I wrote. See, this is how I spent my college days. I was writing a history paper for my BA, and sorry, the beer burps, those are fun.
We have way worse noise in other podcasts.
Yeah, really?
Oh yeah, it gets wild.
It gets wild down here.
The last episode was so much yelling.
Oh yeah, we had 4 people instead of 3, and it was
our 2 guests were like arguing with each other.
Well, let me just say, to come up with a proper analogy, you remember Hawk Cabin Week 2?
Yes.
Yeah, it was that.
It's just pure chaos.
Pure
the entire
chaos.
Time.
And nobody knew what an inside voice was.
Yeah, for point of reference, that was last year when Jack and I were working at the summer camp we mentioned together, and these 11 to 12 to 13-year-old boys, no matter what adult was in the room trying to, control things.
It could be the head of camp himself.
Yes. It was literally like Lord of the Flies. And it was just like, just running everywhere and just wrestling and just all these things. And you're just like, I don't know if I want a child.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Lord of the Flies with reference to the camp, because there was one specific evening in which I finally fully got Lord of the Flies and why that had to be an all-boys school.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's just, I think, okay, first of all, we should probably we didn't preface this by saying that the camp was amazing.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
We had an amazing experience. And really, everyone...
But part of the amazing experience is dealing with some insane shit.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, it's like that balance of like, we had an amazing job. Pretty much everyone there was super, super cool and chill. It's just that when you're an adult, you realize, like, as a kid, you don't realize how crazy you are and how crazy your friends are, and like how if you ask your parents to have 5 people come over to sleepover, and your parents are like, "Hell no, you can't have 5 people come over to sleepover."
Mom, Dad,
you're so
suck.
unfair.
And then
unfair.
as an adult, when you spend an entire week in a cabin with 10
to 12,
10 to 12 children.
You're like, hell no, you can't never. I am never letting my child have 5 people stay over for a sleepover. No way.
Fuck no. They can have their friends over one at a time, one in, one out, like a convenience store.
Yeah, one in, one out, like a convenience store.
Yeah, but like the event that I was talking about, it was one of the event nights that we did where it was like the science themed games where the science theme quickly fell away as we just figured out
it was just games, chaos
as we figured out how to make the games work. We just had to ditch the theme. There might have been a fire. There might have been a fire, but I was not there for the fire.
No, you know what there was? There was silly string. There was slime or that stuff on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I wasn't there for any of those things. I was just there for the raw horror of human nature.
Yeah.
I was up at the basketball court running that event, and like the event was like we had those like this giant rubber band where you use it to launch stuff like they do at the hockey games to launch jerseys. And we were supposed to launch tennis balls into a box and have a blindfolded person like move around to try and get
you're trying to catch them,
trying to move the box, Pong style. Yeah. But then the rubber band broke the first group that we had up, and they were all like in groups by cabin. So it was the boys' cabins and the girls' cabins, and so I had to improvise, and I basically just left the rules open to interpretation, and like since it was science themed, science reveals her mysteries to those who will ask questions.
Yeah.
So like people could kind of flex the rules based on what questions they asked, and so like the girls' cabins were all like, okay, can we like bowl it? Can we bowl it? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then they would just bowl it, and then they would have the blindfolded girl hold the box on the ground and like move it from left to right, and they would shout like left, 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 right, 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 and they would get really high scores, and then the boys' cabins would just chuck them.
Yeah.
Just chuck them.
No plan.
And then Hawk cabin, when it was their turn, that was mostly teenage boys. They Jesus Christ. They were the worst. They were the worst of all of them. I had just had the best girls' cabin doing like communicating super well, and like almost all their balls got in, and they got high score without me helping them at all because they figured out a system, they communicated, and they made it work. Yeah. And then Hawk cabin came in, and they just lined up, did not keep their line at all. After 2 seconds, it was all spread out like crazy, and people were just chucking balls at random, and they said, okay, yeah, the best way for us to do this is just have the blindfolded guy sit up against the fence and hold the box out. Like, they didn't have him move or anything. They just chucked him at him.
Yeah.
And there was no order. They didn't stay behind the line. They kept moving forward and like just grabbing balls at random and throwing them as hard as they could. And I was like, God damn, this is some shit that you would see at Abu Ghraib. Why is it here?
Like just kind of chaos everywhere. I think Buddha did say that women are order, men are chaos, kind of like the yin and yang or something. Or yang and yang.
There's certainly some conditioning because like I don't know. I've met some younger boys and younger girls who behave pretty much the same way, and then as they get older, shit gets more divulged and more crazy.
Yeah,
and like. Yeah, I like one of the boys. I know you're gonna know who I'm talking about without me saying the name. He was very competitive, very competitive, and didn't like to lose to anybody.
Yeah,
and he was constantly shouting at me, asking what the high score was of all the other groups. I'm like, why do you care? Just have fun. Just have fun. Just do your best. And he would keep badgering me, and I didn't want to give him the actual best score of the girls' cabin that came before them, so I just made up a number. And then he said, guys, we're about to beat them. We got to do it. And I'm like, you don't even know who they are. Why are you so adamant about this? And like, I loved what you said when like, whenever you would hear us talking about bullshit that we were dealing with at the camp, like, yeah, what I say to the kids is it's camp. Be at camp. Have fun.
Yeah, dude. Like summer camp is like that one place where you can unless it's a competitive sports camp, in which case, I mean, that's its own monster. But it's like summer camp is supposed to be the place where everyone's supposed to go have fun and just kind of like not worry about other stuff. Like it's like be competitive because we all like to play games and stuff. But
play to win, but don't play to be a dick about how much you won.
You're not trying out for the Olympics, kind of thing.
Yeah, play to win, don't live to win.
Yeah, for sure.
And just laugh when your counselor Jack gets nailed in the beanbag with a watermelon from with a water balloon from another counselor.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
that happened.
Yeah.
Did
you get it? Did you get hit in the face?
I got hit in the face, but that wasn't the issue. Oh. It was just the plums.
Yeah.
And I was like, right as it happened, I was thinking to myself like, somebody's gonna hit me in the nads. Somebody's gonna hit me in the nads. I know it. It's oh, there it is. Oh, I'm glad it's over. At least I don't have to wonder anymore. It was the fear that was getting me. And then everybody had a laugh.
Jack and I went to summer camp with our cousins in Illinois twice. One of the times there was a tornado warning, and we locked down our cabins.
Yeah. And day lightning. That was fun.
Dude.
Yeah, so it was like 90 degrees during the day, and then all of a sudden storm clouds roll in. It gets down to like 45.
I haven't been by a tornado, but I've been by what's those things in Arizona? Dust Devil?
Oh,
the
yeah.
small ones?
Yeah.
So I was driving by one in a Prius and was like, am I going to fall off the road and die in this, not truck?
I believe the cutoff is smart car.
Smart car?
It'll take a smart car right the fuck off the road.
Yeah. But like, did you feel like, because you guys both grew up here, right?
Yeah.
In California. So did you feel, what did you feel like when you had the tornado? Did you look at your friend like, what the fuck are we supposed to do?
I was scared for sure. And also, I was the only person in our cabin who had to use the bathroom during the lockdown. So I go outside where it's raining like 40-mile-an-hour winds. I'm like 8 years old. And I'm alone in the bathroom and I freaked out in my mind like, what if the tornado comes when I'm shitting right here?
Yeah, you're like, well, this is it.
It'll suck me and it right up into the air.
Everything just starts flying everywhere. Like,
oh no!
Find Ian's body.
I'm like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
No, the lawyer. The lawyer, I mean, yeah. Oh, God. But, yeah, like, I remember you telling me about that after you got back. Like, you were shell-shocked from it. But, like, honestly, the entire time that it was happening, I wasn't even afraid. I was just kind of thrilled. Because I was like, I love the rain, first off. Like, when heavy rain is coming down on the roof, that's when I sleep best.
Yeah.
But, like, I just love, like, dark, gloomy, heavy weather. Because I'm fucking edgy like that, I guess.
Apparently, yeah.
No, it just relaxes me in a weird way. But, like, I also, as a kid, I watched The Wizard of Oz a lot of times, and I had never actually been in a tornado, so I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be awesome!" I didn't think I was gonna go to Oz.
It was scary and exciting.
I didn't think I was gonna be picked up and go to Oz because I wasn't like 5. But I was still like, "Ooh, this is cool."
It didn't faze them. They said like, "Oh, it must be so scary living through earthquakes." I was like, "I don't even feel most of them."
Bitch, everything just becomes a massage chair for a couple minutes.
You don't feel them, and you sit there and you're like, "Dude, like I don't." Like, it happens, but most people survive them fine. And so you realize you're like, the threat is decreased because you're just like, it's not, I guess it's just the area.
California's retrofitting buildings for earthquakes too, like all of downtown LA.
And I mean, like,
San Francisco, same thing.
Yeah, and anybody who grew up in California recently has gone through, education about earthquake safety and like the best things to do in that situation.
Yeah,
like,
and I maybe it's just a thing of where you grow up, the disaster that is around you, you feel most comfortable. It's when you're in a foreign scenario.
Like the people in Florida who just bunker down their homes when there's like 120-mile-an-hour winds.
Yep.
This is nothing. I've been through worse.
Yeah. My roof's gonna stay through this 120-mile-an-hour.
Call me when my roof leaves. That's when I worry.
Well, wait, don't call me. I won't have
a phone. The phone will go with the roof.
Shoot up a flare or something.
Shoot up the flare, let it get sucked into
the carrier pigeon.
Shoot up the flare, let it get sucked up into the tornado and become a fire tornado? Not likely, my friend.
So here's a funny transition. Carrier pigeon, right? Extinct.
Yeah.
I've read a couple articles saying they're trying to bring back the woolly mammoth.
Oh, yeah, in South Korea.
Yeah.
And I will ride him and name him Wendell.
Wendell?
It's what I named my big bowl of hair because I cut my hair very recently.
In Siberia, too, like, I've heard the mob will dig up the mammoths to sell the tusks illegally.
Really?
God,
that sucks.
I mean, like...
That's why
that sucks.
That's why they're all going extinct. Yeah. Elephants and rhinos.
Yeah, that sucks. But like, aren't sentences like that just kind of awesome? The mob is gonna steal woolly mammoth tusks to sell them on the black market.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
I guess in statement.
This is why we need to clone them.
It's terrible. It's a bad thing. But sometimes there are bad things where the sentence describing it just makes you go, you know what? Life's cool. I'm gonna stick around for a while. It's interesting at least. Like one that made me feel really bad. It made me feel like a really bad person for thinking that it was for cracking a smile hearing it was the headline that read little person porn star resembling Gordon Ramsay dragged into honey badger hole and killed.
All right. And that would really happen?
Yeah, he was a professional porn star who was a little person who got jobs specifically because of his resemblance to professional chef Gordon Ramsay.
Okay.
And he was out hiking and he got attacked by a honey badger and dragged into its hole, and that was where he died. And it's a terrible thing, but some horrible part of me was
he wasn't able to survive a honey badger attack?
No, I assumed that there was more than one honey badger.
I thought they were all. Oh, maybe there were a couple, like a little pack or something.
North American honey badgers are terrifying creatures.
Yeah,
they're just ferocious bastards.
Yeah, you hear stories about honey badgers, wolverines. They're just so for their size, they're like so strong and so ferocious that like they scare other animals three times their or how many times their size.
Yeah. Like the Norwegian forest cat.
Is that a
That one's pretty cool. They're like these big fluffy cats. Look kind of like tabbies. If that's the breed I'm thinking of, like gray with black stripes and stuff. They're super big and fluffy, and like they weigh 20 pounds, and they're like sheer muscle. And,
they have to be. Look at where they're living.
They have huge claws. They can scale solid rock with them, and they've been known to fight bears. And just these tiny little, relatively speaking, tiny little 20-pound cats. 20 pounds for a house cat is pretty fucking big.
Yeah.
Compared to a fucking bear, that's...
Yeah.
There's a type of jellyfish that's immortal.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Is there really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Like, it's
somewhere outside of Australia
or something?
Yeah. And wait a minute. I don't know if you've heard this, but lobsters don't die of old age. They don't die of natural causes. They have to be killed by a predator or by people, which I guess falls under predators, but they don't die of old age. So there are some really old lobsters living out there.
Yeah, and every time I hear about how much of our ocean we have or have not discovered, like the best estimates that I've kind of read over is somewhere around 10 to 15% of the ocean is what we've discovered. The rest is undiscovered. so let's say it's 10%. That means if you were to look at like depth of water, 1/10 of it is discovered. The other 9/10, we have no idea. So like
no fucking clue.
I don't want to like throw
I think about that when in the Amazon there's like hundreds of different types of bugs discovered every year. How many types of bacteria or like plankton in the ocean haven't we discovered yet?
Yeah, or giant or like people say like giant squids. Now obviously like the one like when you go like all right, don't be a conspiracist, but like megalodon and stuff like that, like no one's ever saying like for sure something exists, but the vastness,
the percentage of what we don't the percentage of what we don't know opens up a certain level of deniability about what we do or don't know.
At least to say like how do you know you found a giant the Japanese found a giant squid that was like 50 feet long and now it's in a museum.
Discovering like
might be smaller,
completely undiscovered like deep sea megafauna is like one of the things that I'm always hoping will come up in like Google News. I check it every week or so, just to see if there's any breaking shit. Because like, what if there's just like a mile long snake down there? We don't know.
Yeah, that I mean honestly, like now that we're on this subject, like. I say this and people go, what the hell? Like you sound articulate and yet you read this stuff.
Are you going to talk about Bigfoot?
I was going to say like Bigfoot and hominids around the world. I think it's just at the very least Chupacabra. I think just all those.
I don't know if Chupacabra is a hominid,
but like the paranormal. When you say para meaning not normal. Mm-hmm. But all of the whether it's aliens or whatever else it might be, like at the very least to entertain the idea of certain things. Existing potentially. But yeah, I've actually spent more time that's probably healthy reading about hominids and stuff like that around the world.
There's no amount of time that's unhealthy to be learning.
Yeah, it is. I guess if it's just not going to anything except the back of my brain.
Yeah. And you're definitely storing it there in case someday a friend of yours invites you to be on a podcast, which the day has come, my friend. Time for payoff.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We didn't even do like an introduction. We just went straight into like
that's how it works, man.
And summer camp and stuff.
Yeah. It just goes, man.
Well, do you want to hear? Because I don't want to, obviously want to talk about a lot of different things. But do you want to hear a small theory I have real quick? I'll try.
Please, really for the love of God, yes.
Okay. So I've been working on this just because I think it's fun. But from what I've read and stuff. So first of all, okay, I do not claim to say that any, a ghost, an alien, Sasquatch, giant squids in the ocean, whatever else. It's not to say anything that these things definitively exist, right? Mythology, folklore versus like reality and like what has really existed in time, dinosaur bones and stuff. It's hard to it's hard to mesh those worlds.
But ultimately, it is just like the impossibility of proving a definitive negative.
Exactly, and the thing is that there's a lot more to this story than I think that a lot of times society will talk about. But the two main premises I have for this are as follows. Number one, if there are any hominids left on Earth, this would be Sasquatch, Yeti, all the names you've heard before of stuff, Yowie in Australia. If there are any hominids besides Homo sapiens left on Earth, it's because two things happened. One, they survived the inner hominid wars of 30, 40,000 years ago, the Neanderthals and Homo sapiens trying to kill each other and all that. Right, they had to have survived that, and then right after, they had to survive the Ice Age. I forget when it ended, 15,000, 20, 30,000 years ago.
Real fucking gauntlet of survival.
Yeah, but those are two big things. Like, you think about it, Homo sapiens surviving those things, like, those are two very big things to survive.
Yeah, back to fucking back.
It's just, and it's very, like, the odds are so small, but that's one thing that had to have happened. A second thing is that whatever potential, if there is, other hominids that are still alive, they had to have developed a degree of intelligence and awareness and cognition, mental cognitive ability, that maybe didn't rival humans or Homo sapiens, but they figured out enough to know that we are a huge threat to them.
And they should avoid detection.
At all costs.
Keep to out of focus areas.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is why the Pacific Northwest, Canada, parts of Asia, certain parts of the Australian outback and wherever else.
And why, even though they might not be most well equipped to understand like modern technology, they know, even though they might not know what a camera is, they know to avoid detection
at all costs.
Which is which is a reasonable explanation for why all evidence that we have is photos that are out of focus or from a distance.
Well, and like, I could talk about this for hours, but honestly, like, the fact that you have something, especially in North America, potentially so large and just so quick and just so elusive and whatever else, that modern science either doesn't know about it and still needs further proof somehow, or does know about it and is denying it, which you could go into that about government and stuff like that, because there's a lot of stories on that. The fact that these things, are in so many Native American tribe folklores and other parts of just general society and stuff. I don't, every time I read more stuff and it's not just someone putting on a fursuit to trying to go out into the woods and scare someone, it just seems like this has gone on so long that maybe there is something to it, but like we as humans have reached our limit of actually how to understand it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you brought up the point about how, this idea, this core idea behind Bigfoot has permeated so many different cultures throughout the centuries and like all the way up to now.
Yeah.
It does bring up the point that like when you get into issues of like, theoretical, cryptozoology and stuff like that, there is this idea that like, when something has permeated so many different cultures, especially ones that wouldn't have had any way to contact each other and share their ideas when those ideas came up, it does make you kind of scratch your head and ask some questions, like the fact that dragons are so common in cultures that like even before they were able to sail across the seas and contact each other, they had dragons or some idea of dragons in their folklore. Before they were ever able to like cross pollinate is it makes you ask some questions.
And maybe it's not a dragon literally flying in the air with,
of course not,
breathing fire and shit like that, like amazingly on Game of Thrones, which I could again talk about all day. But there was something there.
It's
that we've somehow lost proof of in whatever
That's what fascinates me. Not the idea that dragons exactly as they were documented in ancient tapestries and shit were real, but just that there was something there that made people put that on paper.
In most ancient texts, this one I can, as a person who has a BA in history and reads history, and if you really want proof and not to sound, where this subject might be out there, every ancient culture talks about a major flood occurring thousands of years ago.
Interesting.
So that right there shows you, like you're talking about cross culture, that like humans are aware of stuff and we see things that are happening, but a lot of times for some reason certain things don't come to light. Why don't okay, I don't know if aliens exist, but given how infinite the universe is, I wouldn't be surprised if there's something out there.
Oh yeah.
But why do the presidents, or President Clinton and Bush were asked this and they both denied it, of course. Or why does the government deny that aliens exist? Or why does, the government not recognize Sasquatch potentially, or any other topics that are just so far reaching? I think it's because they're literally terrified of losing control, but also just the vastness of it.
As soon as it's confirmed that we're just another marble, everything theoretically could fall apart.
Yeah.
And like you meant, oh, sorry, Ian, you were going to say something.
Did you read, I think it was either FBI or CIA released thousands of pages on aliens. I read through like some of the most like conclusive stuff or just like that said the most. There were a few documents that said there were objects that have remained unidentified by the government.
Right.
Not proving like the existence of aliens, but they weren't able to deduce that it was any other flying aircraft.
I mean, honestly, man, I get that there is this human desire to control everything, right? To control our environment, to turn on the temperature of your, what the fuck is it called? Air conditioning, of your car or whatever else. But
to be Jeff Bezos and control everyone's data forever, or Mark
right?
Zuckerberg.
You're talking about Alexa.
Oh yeah, it's recording everything, baby.
Yeah, but it's just like there's stuff we don't know, and I think, like you said, Jack, I think at some point, if aliens are proven to exist, people are just gonna lose their shit. Like,
because it means we're just another marble with think things on it.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned, like you aren't sure that aliens exist, but you're sure that there's no way we can know for sure right now. Have you guys? We have
such a limited. If you ever watch one of those videos of going out and out and out and out and out and out into the universe, it's crazy
how
much.
But are you guys familiar with the Drake equation?
I'm not.
You've told me about it.
Yeah, it's basically I heard about it in high school and I looked up more about it in college, but I'm blanking on the exact breakdown of how it works. But basically, it's factoring in all of the variables from beginning to end, like from just Earth all the way out to as far as the known universe, of the likelihood to calculate the likelihood of intelligent life somewhere else in the universe. And like it begins with like the number of planets on which what we know about life, what we understand as life, could possibly develop under those environmental conditions. How many of those planets we know about? On how many of those statistically would it be likely for any kind of life to develop? On how many of those would it be likely for any of that life to attain in like higher intelligence? On how many of those, how many would be likely to attain space travel? On how many of those, how many would be able to travel between stars? On all the way up. And like when you break down the numbers like that, it really like there's no definitive, like obviously a theoretical calculation can't give any kind of definitive answer that there's life out there, but when you look at how it breaks down all those factors, it kind of seems inevitable that there is. Whether or not we'll contact it in our existence as a species is an entirely different question, but the fact that it's out there, I think it's impossible to deny, and to think that we're the only ones is, it's bordering on arrogant.
I think also, if you look at, not to, piss too many people off, but then again, everyone's offended by everything these days. The major world religions, if aliens were proven to exist, the quest to know where we came from, why we are here, and what's happening in the future. What I argue is I've written poetry and I write a lot of different stuff just for fun when I have time. And the big three are those three: where we came from, why we're here, what's happening in the future.
Of course.
I think a lot of the major world religions, if aliens were proven to exist, would fall apart.
Yeah, maybe.
Because, well, not I wouldn't say definitively they would, but my
If
argument...
the aliens have more power than God.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That they literally could teleport, or they literally could fly without machine. Like remember Superman 4 when the three...
The bad one? The really bad one?
The really bad one when the three of them came, bow before Zod.
Oh,
Do you see that one?
That's Superman 2. That one's good.
Oh, is that 2?
Yeah.
The one where they get trapped in that plane?
Yes,
Yeah,
and there's the three of them.
Phantom Zone.
And the three of them, like the guy who he's older and he's been in some other movies now, the British guy, but there's the guy,
Malcolm McDowell.
Dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So they come and humanity freaks out because they're like, oh my gosh, Superman can't stop them. So it's like
Each of them is as strong as him.
We're sitting here
fucked.
and people are sitting like, there's this guy, his name was Jesus. Don't know if you've heard of him, but they're like, he is the founder of religion, could be the Messiah.
When they first walk into fucking Houston and the cops stop them, they're like, we're on the planet Houston.
Yes, exactly.
There's pissed off. Yeah.
But it's just like, I think that part of why some things might be in the books of the Vatican, deep in the Vatican that they supposedly say are there, or like why the government hasn't revealed like maybe meeting aliens or whatever else it might be.
Yeah.
Is that literally like there's just this idea of trying to keep everyone some sense of order.
Oh, yeah.
And
roll out the documents like slowly once they gauge that we're ready for it.
Yeah, because
that might be their plan.
Because
Which makes me wonder what Pope Francis is going to reveal.
Yeah, oh, dude, he actually this is the current one, right?
Yeah, Pope Francis.
Dude, he washed people's feet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What other world leader has done that?
Yeah, the Catholic Church itself is not super thrilled with how he's been acting, which is making me wonder what he's going to roll out from all that stuff.
You mean he's actually acting like Jesus would have, like washing people's feet?
I know, right? What
an
asshole.
Being good to your neighbor.
Yeah.
It's kind of, dude, here's the thing. I am always in a quest to understand like the why we are here on Earth.
Yeah.
And I don't try to do it crazy level, but I try to do it like just to figure out like what life is. But when a lot of people I meet are so I don't want to say indoctrinated because we all have our biases.
Yeah,
right?
we all have our cultural conditioning.
Yeah, right.
We all do.
But when a person tells me that they, follow one religion or whatever else it might be, super, like this is what I am. This is part of my identity. But then like that same person sees a homeless individual and says, well,
he better work harder.
They better work hard. They better pull them up by their bootstraps, or they better whatever. It's like,
which is what Jesus said before there were boots.
It's like Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Confucius. Even though Confucianism is more of like a philosophy than a religion. But none of them said. None of them said like push the homeless person aside.
Yeah, and it's like you differentiated between all those others and Confucius because he was more of a philosopher. I do kind of like to think of like the religious prophets, like the major religious prophets, as philosophers and just go through what they said or what they purportedly said as philosophy rather than like the word of God. But also I am interested in what you're saying in reference to like if we make contact with aliens, then like a huge percentage of religion goes out the window. Like I do think
it might. I can't guarantee.
All of this is theoretical, of course. Yeah. But like I do think that you're a very reasonable person. But like a lot of people might take like that core sentiment and like take it too far. And even though I'm not a religious person at all, I'm very secular. I do kind of like groan and roll my eyes when people. Like I read or watch science fiction that says like in any society that becomes more advanced will inevitably abandon religion, and I'm not really on board with that because on a cultural level I do respect everybody's right to a religion.
Yeah,
and like even Judaism, like I know I have Jewish friends and they talk to me about like how in Judaism there's a lot of debate on what Jews believe, and like many of us don't even believe that God exists. We just take the texts as a frame of reference for how to act as a person. Like there's debate on all of that, which is why Judaism is fascinating. But like I've always been fascinated by the idea of like reasonable people who believe in a religion are able to adapt as times change.
Totally.
Yeah. Like like I even like wrote a short science fiction story about it, but like the idea that if Jesus existed as the Son of God, not just as a guy,
Okay.
but like if he was doing this not just on Earth, but on every other planet with intelligent life, he did the same basic plan of going there, spreading the word of, hey, don't be a dick to people, and then getting killed as recompense for all their sins. It's like just the idea that he does that everywhere. And it's like, so if we do make first contact with another alien race, I think that any reasonable person who's able to like approach the issue with humility will be able to reconcile their religion with changing information.
You hope so. It's just it's like
any reasonable person.
Reasonable, yeah. It's just very like, I don't know. I think human beings are also very they're very guarded on their belief systems sometimes, and we're also very tribal. You know, I've read a couple articles recently that made me laugh, because it's like this idea of people, we put ourselves into tribes.
Yeah.
Because
we love a good in-group, out-group.
Yeah, and the problem with that is now, with social media and whatnot, we're seeing everything around the world going on. And so when people say, save the rainforest, donate to Syria, stop buying this product because it's made inhumanely in this country or whatever else, or sweatshops and other things like that. It's like we have so much information going on, which is awesome, because the internet helps us just kind of understand more,
I feel like the average person can't have an opinion on everything. Like you're
no, everything. No,
there's too much.
You can't really.
There's too much. And you have core values, and you just assess everything based on that, and that's really the best you can do.
And Ian, you just nailed it. Okay, you just nailed it. The point you were making about religion and aliens, like you're not sure. Do you think they could square it away?
I think that reasonable people can reconcile those two things.
But I don't know, like the average person being like, there's aliens in the sky that have ships that they can destroy us in a matter of seconds. Kind of like a terrible, like a plot to an Avengers movie or something like that.
Pretty much, yeah.
Where it's like real life, and they're just sitting there like, without those people panicking. I don't know. I don't know. You know? But it's like, it's just... So then you almost get sympathetic to the government if they know that aliens exist. They might say, I don't know if the general population could handle this.
Yeah, and that's like the entire issue brought up by like cosmic horror and shit like that, like in fiction, where like you find another intelligent life so advanced beyond yourself that you can't process it correctly, and your mind just shuts down. It's like when you go into shock from a major injury. You just can't comprehend what's happened to you, so you just shut down. It's the same way, but like conceptually, like philosophically, you can't handle something that more advanced than yourself, so you just break.
So Ian, I feel like this is your creation. This is your baby. If you want to change subjects, just say something.
No, this is a good downward spiral.
Okay, cool. Very down.
We love
going into hell. Here we go.
We love a downward spiral here.
So Jack, again, the point you just made, this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to say it anyway, because it's like, whatever. It's just fun, I guess. That feeling of disorientation, most people that see a hominid, to bring it back again, full circle to Bigfoot or whatnot.
We're circling back.
Yeah.
We love circling back too.
Circle highway to hell, or highway to Fantasyland, not the good one. But no, most people become disoriented when they potentially experience something with them, because the idea is that it's something so out of left. It's not like seeing a bear or like a deer or whatever.
That's a big animal, but you're evolutionarily you're equipped to see it because you're used to seeing it, like on an evolutionary level, like genetic knowledge and shit like that.
Yeah, but then like all these other things, I think that just the unfamiliarity with seeing potentially aliens or whatever else it might be, it puts people on overload, and like you said, they kind of go into like a shock phase.
Yeah. Oh fuck. Have you ever seen Arrival?
Is that the one with Jeremy Renner
and Amy Adams?
Yes,
yeah.
I just watched that with my girlfriend.
Oh my god, I love that movie.
Yeah,
but
that's
like
a good one.
Yeah, but
my girlfriend had to explain it to me afterwards because I was too stupid to figure out what happened.
Oh yeah, it was pretty crazy, but like it was fascinating how it touches on what we're talking about, how just coming into contact with this other alien race, and like it even branches into linguistics about like how learning and becoming fluent and becoming immersed in another language can have like actual measurable physiological effects on your brain. That ties into it. Not to give away the twist too much, but like that ties into it too. Like
it's worth seeing.
Yeah, how much?
Probably worth seeing.
How much interacting with another kind of life form that you have no idea how to understand will change you. How much that will change.
Yeah,
like how you are and how you think.
You know, another name for it is the astronaut effect.
Yeah,
all these astronauts that go to space, they see the amazingly beautiful. I can only imagine. Breathtaking being an understatement view of the world, coming back and saying to every world leader, this is all we have. This is the Earth.
This is it, man. It's just all of us together stuck in here. Let's make it work.
So you want to drill oil in the ocean.
Why?
And destroy that area, not if, but when it spills, stop. These people who... And this I could go on and on about the economics of this and whatnot.
Yeah.
But like the greed of people and like this concept of not like sitting down and actually figuring out like what we're gonna do for the future. Yeah. Like, you know?
Oh yeah. I do think that everybody needs to in some way, in some capacity for their own lives, confront the fact that there may be an afterlife. I don't know, but as far as we know, this is it. All we've got right here. So let's treat it like there's other people here. Let's treat it like the 5 on Rush Hour and just act like there's other people around us.
Yeah. No, and it's very like you just wonder sometimes when someone I was playing softball one time down here in San Diego with this team. And these were all guys I went to high school with or near rival high schools. And they're all super competitive. They're all just, the guys that are just sports or everything, and I'm like, okay, that's totally fine. Like we like to have fun. I was one of them. I was super competitive as well. But I actually got into an argument with one of them about because he drove an SUV or a truck, I think, and I was driving a Prius, and he we were grown men. And he was trying to make fun of me for driving a Prius. And I sat there and I was like, God, this is going to be so easy to tear him apart. But like, the thing is this is not, I'm going to come off as the asshole in this because of the know-it-all. And I'm like, he's trying to make fun of me for being more
and like the more facts that you give people, the more likely they are to cling to their beliefs a lot of the time.
It's I don't know if you've read it, but Plato's Allegory of the Cave, where
Yep.
people stare at a wall and they just want to believe what they want to believe. And if you tell them something different, they will often get violent about it. And it's like...
and that even ties back into...
He could not understand that I was driving a Prius.
Yeah, that even ties back into First Contact, because as I remember, the way the Allegory of the Cave ends is a guy is finally released from that situation where he's only seeing shadows on the wall, and he gets to go up into the real world where the light is coming from and see everything.
Knowledge, illumination, or whatever you want to call it.
Knowledge, illumination, a next level of understanding, and he can't fucking handle it. Which
you go insane.
It ties back in everything. So like you have two choices: you either like struggle and die on the surface with that illumination, or you retreat from it. You go back into the dark. You chain yourself back up and just look at the shadows and try to pretend that you didn't see what you saw.
It is so hard to. I really like reading a lot of different topics, but one of the ones that just sometimes I have to literally take a step back from is when I read philosophy, because honestly, like I think Socrates just nailed it. It's like the wisest person knows they don't know shit. You know what I mean? Like we don't know very much in the grand scheme of things.
The person who knows the most knows. Yeah, we're all just think meat on a rock.
Yeah,
we don't know anything.
Yeah, I can't read too much philosophy. Nietzsche fucked me up in high school.
Dude, that I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
Nietzsche, like when he just the things he says, you're just like, oh my God, like he legitimately was this individual sitting and suffering and being like, this is my hand, this is like a finger, this is a table, like, and you're just like, what are you doing? And he's, I don't want to say he was aware or awareness or being present, but like he definitely was on this level of like trying to break existence apart and trying to, and reading
to stare into the abyss
to a point of madness. And didn't he? I think he died. What did he die of? I knew this at one point. I don't remember.
Probably a sex disease. Let's be real.
It might have been that. It wasn't tuberculosis. I have to look it up again.
I mean,
if only we had something where we could look everything up.
Yeah, like maybe a computer
Nah,
2 feet to that way.
No.
But like,
I think it's like an astounding number. Like half of people on the planet have tuberculosis. It just doesn't always manifest.
Yeah. No.
Really?
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, Jack. Oh, okay.
no, it's healthy cough blood.
Well,
Don't worry
Ian,
about
was
it.
Nice knowing you for all of the 30 minutes we've been friends in real life. Man.
Oh, Jesus.
Brett and I just met today, but he already contributed lyrics to a song of mine.
That, I got to tell you, brother, that was hard. Because, see, I write musings. I write probably at least if you were doing pages, I hand write about 2 to 3 pages a day. And that's just me. But that's just me. A lot of it's bullshit. It's just get the brain on paper.
Still, getting it out there, getting it on paper is a hell of a thing.
But I literally make the time being like, this is my half hour of writing. I'm not doing anything else. Don't talk to me. Like, unless the building's burning down or someone's having a heart attack, don't talk to me. I'm gonna write and just get stuff out. But poetry and even comedy, I know I'm not very good at stand-up. I've tried before, but lyrics writing is hard. Like, you're sitting there like, if you ever deal with the thing of you're like, you have the music and you're trying to get the words together, but you're like, I am literally putting the words to the song. And I just sat there and thought about it and was like, well, I don't want to fuck up your song. Like, I don't want to make this about like,
I don't want to put clashing furniture in your song.
Yeah, I don't want to put this like,
No.
you know, like a traveling like to outer space or something like that. And you're like, actually, Brett, it was really about my depression.
My first reaction was, wow, this is way different than what I read. I wonder if it's gonna fit. And then once I sang it, I was like, this totally fits. This is perfect for it.
Oh, I'm glad it worked out because there were some
It
nights.
was nice getting newer voices in. My friend Richard also wrote some of the spoken word on there that I delivered, and I liked what he wrote too. I feel like I get like too complex with my lyrics, where there's like not memorable lines to people. It's just like too many big words.
But I think you've mentioned this before though when we've talked back and forth. Your art, and I know a couple of your guests have been music artists too, right?
Yeah,
like
quite a few. Yeah,
I think I think you make a really good point that it depends on what you're doing it for. If you're doing it for a major record label, of course they want you to do that catchy lyrics. It's like, yeah, he's got the catchy lyrics. It's like, hit me, baby, one more. So everyone's in their showers singing "Bring Me" or "Bye, Bye, Bye." It's like all this. By the way, both of you know them. I know. No, I'm just asking because some people are like, I don't know who the Backstreet Boys are. I'm like,
dude. Okay. I was at camp.
Yeah, we were around.
I'm just making sure.
I was at camp when all my fellow counselors were jamming out to the Backstreet Boys.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Remember hit clips?
I remember TRL. I remember when MTV used to do music. Those fuckers. Now it's just teen.
My favorite channel used to be Fuse when they showed music videos.
Oh my god, I remember you watching. Yeah. Fuse eclipsed the Weather Channel for you. That used to be your favorite channel, and then it became Fuse.
That's funny.
And now Fuse doesn't exist.
Yeah, but
I thought they were still around. They just play pop music.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think you made a good point. Like I was saying before about what you mentioned is that, you know, it's like what you're creating it for. You know, like if you create music and you put lyrics to it, it's like, all right, that's my style. Now, maybe some point you have this, you go from here to out to here, like way out to here, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, that's my style, but what else could I do? So sometimes you see like...
There's not a single style for Cheap Windows. It's pretty much whatever I want to do, and I'm doing it for myself. Really.
He went from, this is my style, to that expansion point quite a while ago.
And you know what? If you produce it, you make it, you know, so it sounds pretty good and people download it or whatever else, and maybe something comes of it. But at the very least, you're doing a hobby and having some fun to where you're enjoying it, you know? And I think that's super, super important. I know some people are like, don't spend your time on stuff that like you're not going to turn into like a financial, like whatever. Like if you're writing, like write a book or whatever else. But it's like, yeah, but sometimes, you know, like art can
it's great to create. There's creators and consumers in the world, and I'm more of a creator.
Yeah, and art can be interpretive and it can be therapeutic. And it literally just, if it gives you even a sense of purpose where like you're working the job, family or whatever else, but it's just a hobby you just do, you know, maybe, who knows, maybe through that experimentation, maybe one day you do in fact create something that a producer randomly hears throughout the universe. You know, they hear it and they're like, whoa, this is really good. And then they like call you up and then maybe you get a deal or something like that. But I don't know. I think a lot of people are like, I want to be instantly famous, and it's like Oprah didn't do that.
Yeah.
You know, J.K. Rowling didn't do that. Like Walt Disney, like almost like in the early days of the Depression and in the middle of the 30s, was like his company went almost like bankrupt like a couple of times, and he was rejected by a few different artist house or publishers to say that he had no talent. But it's like, okay, you can try to make it financial, but also just have fun.
Yeah.
You know? If it works for you.
Yeah, like music doesn't make that much money unless you're like Lady Gaga or Katy Perry.
Yeah, but
like even bands that like say my friends talk about selling out, they're still making less than minimum wage on the road. So I'm not seeking any sort of pop success, really. I know that's not what my style lends itself to. Two big things I'd like to do: get vinyl of some of my music, and then score a movie. That would be amazing,
dude. Oh my God. Okay. We have to take a minute of our lives at least to talk about this. So, music scores for movies, TV, video games. Holy shit. Okay. So, you've heard Indiana Jones. Da 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 da. You've heard Jaws. Dun dun dun, right? Okay. Anyone who's listening to this, please, I swear to you, your life will be changed for the better. There are many groups now that do video game, movie trailer, commercial music, and even just random songs in movies or art that are not like John Williams doing the Indiana Jones main theme, but is more like an epic, like strong, just very like, you know, almost like the action music, if you will.
Yeah.
I can't think of one that is like so famous, like dun 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 dun. Now that's actually, yeah, right, and it goes on because you actually know how to sing. I don't. I just kind of scare people. This is why
two of the ones I like are more ambient. Vangelis and Johan Johansson. He just died recently.
Oh no,
he did the score for Arrival. That was the main reason I watched that movie.
Yeah.
So
and now he also was contracted for the Mother score. And when he finished it, he said, "This movie doesn't need my score. I'm just going to leave it out."
Was he your typical like John Williams, James Horner, Colossus Bedell? Was he like the typical musician / composer for soundtracks? Would you say, or was it like? I mean,
he did a few soundtracks and then had more of his own albums. He was like classical and ambient.
And even like in terms of what he did for movies, if he did Arrival, that was more like, you know, very ambient and moody, fitting more with that kind of movie. It was less of the John Williams school of music scores.
Yeah, totally. Well, the one I got excited about, the groups I wanted to tell you about just briefly. Two Steps from Hell.
Oh yeah.
Immediate Music. So you've heard of these guys?
Oh yeah. I just every once in a while I'll queue up Empire of Angels by Two Steps from Hell and just
God,
close my eyes and I'll picture a specific. I have a specific scene in mind that I picture and play through my head beat by beat every time when I listen to it. It just keeps me going on a project that I've been working on for a long time.
So we could seriously sit down and go through like a list of like 100 songs. I have playlists on YouTube of just video after video of different stuff, like my 70s rock, my movie themes, my chill out meditation music, my music of like Harry Potter's potion classroom, where it's just sounds of bubbles and stuff, so it's like a very calming, easy thing, or like or like rainforest or something, you know, depending on what your mood wants. But Jack,
got environment music.
Oh my God, is it Wales?
Yes.
Oh my God, dude, this stuff. I'm not joking, dude. The nature stuff and the meditation music and calming. Thanks, man. Oh, it's a cassette. Wow, remember these? And you have to rewind it, and all the tape goes everywhere.
He's got a whole shelf. He's got Sade. He's got Depeche Mode. He's got Talking Heads. He's got Michael Jackson.
One other thing I do for money, I make tapes for local bands.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's coming back around. That's been a thing in
because vinyl got so expensive to press, it's like a minimum of $1,000 or more. So like local bands, they can get 25 tapes made by me for $60,
but they
sell them at shows.
And so they're not concerned about the rewinding it and ruining the tape. It's just like
care.
Whatever.
No, not really.
It's more about just getting it out there.
Most of the people who buy tapes at shows, they're just doing it to support the band that they like. A lot of them don't even play the tapes.
It's It's just getting the stuff out there physically, and like Ian mentioned, it's not even always about playing the tapes. He has one right there on the edge of his shelf that's still wrapped in the original wrapping.
It has a wax seal
because
on
the
it.
wrapping was so
awesome.
cool. It's got like original art on the wrapping and it's got a wax seal. So he doesn't want to open it. And like when he brought it home and showed it to me, I was like, dude, you can't open this. Just listen to their shit on SoundCloud or something.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so he's taking it out now because it's so fucking
I think
cool.
This is the best band I ever played a show with.
And you got the seal. Oh my gosh.
I know, right? That looks like a.
It looks. You know what it looks like? It looks like a hardcore Hogwarts letter. It's like you got this individual on the front who looks like a cross between a mummy and a zombie.
It looks like a little skeleton kid in a tux.
Yeah, like a baby mummy, maybe. I don't know. That's dope, dude. And the seal, like the whole Game of Thrones or Hogwarts, like the old time seals with wax. That's dope.
Yeah, I was
tape
like,
is from Snaggletooth. I played 2 shows with them.
Shout
in
out to
my old band.
Snaggletooth.
They were emo with cello, and the vocalist was a trans woman.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God, this really is so cool. Like they have their own original wrapping with their own. Holy shit! I didn't realize. I forgot about this. The wax seal is custom. It has ST for Snaggletooth.
That's awesome.
So it's like, yeah, I remember when you first showed this to me, I was like,
So you literally
dude,
put it
open
on
this.
and you have the brand there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
ST Snaggletooth.
Dope.
Yeah, I just remember you bringing this home and showing it to me. I'm like, dude, you can't open this. Just listen to their shit on Spotify or something.
One I want to mention real quick before I forget. His name is Marcus Warner. He's one of these, 2 Steps from Hell groups. Only he's an individual that does this music that we were talking about. And one of his songs, "City of Sails," might be one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. And
that shit is amazing.
Honestly, like I like to post these on my page and Facebook just because I think this genre, when people say like, oh, I don't download music or I don't buy music or whatever, I still buy music on iTunes because I want to hear different songs and like them for a library, But this music, the instrumental of it and just the feeling of like, just getting people up and going, it's just so something about it.
Like that one specifically, City of Sails, I remember just
you do know it.
I just remember putting it on like I said I do with Empire of Angels, and I just closed my eyes. And like that one, I don't have a specific scene from a story I'm working on in mind. I just close my eyes and like whatever I'm thinking in that moment, I just let the music take me and like I go on a little adventure in my mind.
Another one of his, Wings.
Oh, I haven't listened to that one.
Oh, dude.
I should.
The first 30 seconds, like I'm not saying you might need to change your pants after, but oh my God,
knowing me, I might get a little too carried away.
What's Jack doing in his room? He's listening to music.
He's listening to
Shut the door! Hide the children!
Shut the door! I'm aloft on the winds.
Hey Jack, what are you doing? I'm watching porn. Go away.
Nothing. I'm watching porn. God.
You ever notice how not this porn, but like. Now it got weird. We talked about aliens, and then all of a sudden it got weird.
It just now got weird at the hour and 10 mark.
You ever like watch movies though, or like some film, and then put a different song or music to it that was really originally intended, and you look at it and you're like, oh my God, that's almost like perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
People say that Wizard of Oz and Pink Floyd match up.
Oh
Really?
yeah. That's a popular one.
Yeah?
Yeah. I still gotta do it. It's become like a joke at this point because so many people say it, but like I really do want to try it. Like I just want to eat a pot brownie, put on Wizard of Oz, and just sync it up with Dark Side of the Moon and just watch. And like I don't know what you're supposed to do. Like, are you supposed to leave the Wizard of Oz sound on but low, or are you supposed to mute it completely?
I'm not sure. I haven't read about it. I've only heard about it through word of mouth.
I'm gonna do my research and then I'm gonna do it, and I'm just gonna make that my weekend because I'm pretty sure it's either gonna be a huge disappointment or it's gonna blow my fucking mind like it did everybody else.
That's hilarious.
A fun one is watching stupid videos on Facebook, like somebody getting punched and to classical music.
Oh, dude, scroll through World Star Hip Hop on mute, but cue it up to Sail by AWOL Nation. The punches from people on the bus totally sync up.
I'm trying to remember Sail. What's the basic
Sail.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Is that considered dubstep?
Vaguely, I would say it's dubstep adjacent.
Yeah.
Ian, you're the expert on various musical genres. Care to weigh in?
I would say it's dubstep or pop.
It's dub pop, I guess, would be the portmanteau for it if it's straddling the line between the two.
You know how I knew I was done with college? This is gonna sound really I don't want to say ageist, but like I don't want to say like I was on a high horse.
Just implying like a generation gap.
Yeah, generation gap. Yes, there was a generation gap. I was finishing up college and dubstep just became big, and I don't know how long its peak was. I want to say like 4, 5, 6 years, whatever it was.
About 5. Let's give it 5.
Sure, say it was 5.
A generous 5.
It had just kind of gotten big, and I knew that I was done with college because I started going to our team's lacrosse games, and instead of playing like Metallica or AC/DC or something to get did that pot brownie set in?
I didn't need
cocaine.
I didn't need a pot brownie. I just smoked.
Yeah, I did. There you go.
I smoked cocaine.
But like instead of playing what I would say is rock or whatever you want to call it, before games, we started playing dubstep, and I just sat there and I was like, "This sucks." This is bad. I don't hate anybody because like if you like Justin Bieber, fine, whatever. I don't.
I don't hate the people who like this, but I do hate this.
I don't want to like playing college lacrosse and getting all jacked up and going to be all broy. I didn't want to listen to robot.
Yeah, you want to listen to fucking Jump by Van Halen.
No, or Enter Sand. No.
Because there were like two types of dubstep. Skrillex and the like were called bro step by some people in the music community.
Skrillex was all right. I just didn't like. I was like, dude, it's all about timing. Like, I'm not gonna listen. Like, the funny part about playing Chop Suey, wake up, wake up at summer camp. Not that we did, but like we totally did. Play it in the morning because it contrasted with getting up early in the morning. Yeah. So when I was listening to dubstep,
Ashton loved playing Circle of Life.
Dude,
that was hilarious.
Genius. Yeah. By the way, Ashton, we love you. We miss you.
Ashton, you're a genius.
Yeah.
I totally forgive you for throwing that water balloon into my balls.
That is so. Oh, that.
Yeah, it was him. Oh. Strong man.
Yeah, he's
gifted athlete.
Very athletic, and then all of a sudden, you almost lost your gonads or whatever.
Yeah. I lost a gonad.
Part of you died that day.
Yeah. Part of me named my son.
Yeah. It's very funny because it's like, you know how as you get older and I would hope wiser, but that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, we'll see.
You try to sit down and give different aspects of culture, music, art, or whatever. You try to give it a shot, right? You try to like listen to it, or
you try not to be the get off my lawn.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Oh yeah, it's hard, man. It's like gravity.
Yeah,
you got to resist it every day.
Because like I'm sitting there trying to get ready for the game, and the dubstep just didn't do it for me. But maybe I was just conditioned to listening to AC/DC at Padre games or at my high school or whatever else, or Metallica.
The Padres game song for me is Gasolina by Daddy Yankee.
Oh yeah, they play that. They still
play it so much.
They still play that after home runs.
They played Republica, Ready to Go. It was like a Jock Jam song in the mid '90s. I don't know if you know it. And they played that for like every time before the game, dun, 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 and it would be like those cool shots of like the players lacing up their shoes, and doing a drill, and then one of them would like look all tough into the camera, and
then like the rapid fire edits of like them like scooping up a ball and throwing it first,
and then like it'd be like they go, they're like, oh, you see their face,
and then they come out on the field and they're all just like.
Yeah.
There's kind of standing there.
Dude, it's gladiator games, man. Yeah. It's so gladiator. It's the same shit 2,000 years ago.
Okay. Now that we're on this, I got to ask, this is something that I love asking people, getting to know them, but I've completely forgotten to ask either of you this, even though one of you I've known for a good long while, and one of you is my actual brother.
Actual brother. Yeah. Blood brother. As you know.
Yeah. What song would you pick definitively to be your MLB like walking out to the plate song?
Oh, that's a good question.
I'll give you guys some time.
Sure,
I'll give you mine. I'm split down the middle between two. One, seems like the more obvious choice, which is, I mentioned earlier, Jump by Van Halen. Mm-hmm. You got to come out and you just got to strut. You got to own that walk to the
Might
plate.
as well just jump.
Go ahead and jump. Yeah, you got to roll with the punch. Yeah, that one. And the other one, which I think is a little bit like more people might turn their head, but I would just own it anyway, is Love is a Battlefield by Pat Benatar. Like you just come shimmying out, dun 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 dun. We are young, heartache to heartache we stand, and you just either way, like those are two big songs. You gotta own your walk out to the plate when you do that.
I don't want to say definitively, even though I'm past my baseball career.
Now
trying out for pro sports.
Is it official?
Yeah.
Man,
dude, when you. I don't want to say, you'll see, Sonny, but when you pass 30, holy shit.
Like a brick wall?
Stuff just, like, you can't drink the same. You can't, like... I mean, there's people that try to live it up like they were in their 20s, but, like,
I've seen them, and it's bad.
Yeah. You don't, like... You still got to stay active and stuff like that to stay... whatever, so you don't break down.
I already kind of hit that wall at 22 due to chronic illness, so I feel that already.
It's a definitive. Well, there's, I guess maybe it happens for different people for different reasons in life, but there's a definitive point where you're like, I can't keep eating burgers all the time and drinking beer and then maybe going to Vegas and doing like some other stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and like having heard that sort of sentiment from enough people, I've kind of been adjusting my lifestyle at 22 to accommodate that. Like every once in a while I'll go into the kitchen like wanting something to crunch on, and like I'll be looking for chips or pretzels or something, and I'll be like, maybe a big fistful of spinach or a carrot. I'll go with that instead. But like I know that even with those little changes, it's still gonna hit me like a brick wall as I get older.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, to answer your question, just like, even though there's probably 100 songs, I feel like I'd want a song that made me look tough, even though like there's no point, because baseball's a great sport, but you're not trying to do contact like football or
and
taekwondo.
And, like you can walk out like the biggest badass in the world, but shit can still not go your way at the plate at all.
Especially if you get hit by the ball. Oh my God, 95-mile-an-hour pitch.
Although at least then you get on base. At least then you get on base.
Yeah,
strikeout or foul ball that somebody catches, you're like, no, that just completely takes the wind out of your sails.
I'd probably, just because I like the instrumental to it, and I literally have written raps to it before for total fun or for teaching in the classroom, just to like kind of spice things up. I got 5 on it. I got 5 on it, do. Like you'd have to hear the background to it, but
yeah. Ian, how about you?
I think it would be "Chariots of Fire" by Vangelis.
Nice.
Dun dun dun. Because that snare sounds like
another one.
But you know what? My wrestling intro music would be "So Cold" by Breaking Benjamin.
Oh God,
like WWE.
Oh yeah, WWE is a whole other ball game. Ironically, from the ball game.
Stone. Okay, so I was gonna say Stone Cold, but hold on, for the baseball. Yeah, I feel like I guess it just matters on what you like really want to do. Another one might be Danger Zone, Top Gun.
Oh yes, Walk in with some aviators, pyrotechnics going off.
That'd be great.
That one's a good one for wrestling, yeah.
But
or baseball also is a good one. But
Stone Cold Steve Austin. There's obviously The Rock, The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan. Even though they kicked Hulk Hogan out.
Yeah,
that's Be
gone, hot dog man.
There's a lot of opinions on that, but Stone Cold. God, you just look at these, like, I just rewatched some of these moments of where the wrestling's going on, the fake punches are being thrown, the chairs are being over back and stuff. And then all of a sudden, Stone Cold's music comes on, and just people just lose their shit.
I know, right? Yeah.
They're just like the ultimate bad guy, but he's still like a good guy, and he's still going to come out and like he's going to stun the CEO. It's like you wonder the first time he sat there, he's like, Vince, listen to me. Vince, I'm telling you what I'm going to do. I'm gonna stun you. And Vince just goes, you're a genius. Like, I mean, Vince said that because Vince started wrestling. He's like, wait a minute. If Stone Cold does that, oh my God, my viewership's going to go up so much.
Yeah, like, pro wrestling really is like the best fucking like mass appeal theater that there is.
Yeah.
And like,
the people are superheroes.
I think it is basically people superhero LARPing in a huge stadium where people go nuts. But like, another a more recent equivalent to like that reaction that people got when Stone Cold's music started was fucking Shinsuke Nakamura. Are you guys familiar with Shinsuke?
No.
Oh, dude, like he joined WWE a while ago, and like his entrance is one of my favorites because like he has like everything will just go black, and then like strobe lights will start on stage, like little like occasional lights, and then like there'll just be like this very slow like violin. I
have heard it. I don't, but I haven't
and then,
watched
like,
it
the lights
recently,
will come
so.
on, and he'll be there, and he's like, just doing all these weird movements, and then like he started having the violin guy walk out with him.
That's
and, like,
awesome.
Playing violin, like he bows to the guy, and the violin guy bows to him as he's playing. Like everybody goes crazy. I really want to go to WrestleMania just like if Shinsuke Nakamura is going to be there, so I can be there for that shit.
You know what that reminds me of? Have you ever seen the video on YouTube where it's like moped trombone? So it sounds like a motorcycle's coming around the corner, and then all of a sudden you see this moped, and on the back of it there's a guy's like playing a trombone. That's my kind of humor. Like I love all kinds of humor, but that right there, that's just genius.
Just pulling the rug like that.
Just having fun.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Top Secret?
No, is that a YouTube show?
It's a movie from like the 80s from like the guys who did Airplane.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you've seen Airplane.
I've seen parts of it.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the whole thing through.
I'm sure I've fawned over it on the podcast before. I don't know when, but it was like it is the ultimate sight gag movie of all time. Like it's the best. But like one bit in particular that immediately reminded me of just like playing with people's expectations, and then like the reveal is like somebody comes into like the general's office and like general, and then he's like sitting with his feet up on the table, but then he stands up and there's still feet on the table, so they were just fake legs. And it's like, what? Or another one where it's like the big red phone is in the foreground, like right in the foreground. It's a huge phone, and it's ringing. And then like all the guys are way in the background, very far away across the room, and it starts ringing. And one guy walks across, and it's a long cross to the foreground. And then he picks up the phone, and it's a giant phone in his hand, like a huge phone that he can barely even hold. It's like, what? Just like there's all those stupid reveals. It's like nothing but that throughout the whole movie, and I love it so much.
There's two gifs that get me every time. There's one of a skateboarder. He's got a skateboard in his left hand, and he's running like he's about to jump on it, but then he just keeps running for like 100 feet.
I fucking love that one. It's just like, here I go, 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 here I go.
And then there's another one at a concert. It looks like Germany, where a guy with a bald head and sunglasses on.
Yeah, it's Germany, all right.
He stage dives, but then he just jumps onto the concrete. He doesn't even like try to jump into the crowd.
He doesn't aim for the crowd. He just goes to the concrete. He does it for the vine.
Oh my god,
that's Germany, all right.
That's funny.
Oh my god.
Who? Here's a question. Who? Best wrestler entrance ever?
I already said, like, you know, there's a lot of contention on this, but I'm gonna stake my claim on Shinsuke Nakamura. He's my favorite.
Really?
Yeah, he's my favorite entrance. I get so fucking pumped watching him go. It's like when he comes out and like the violin riff kicks in, like everybody, like you can just hear like throughout the stadium, everybody's going like,
I gotta, before we leave, I gotta watch this. You gotta show me this.
Oh yeah,
on YouTube.
and he's got like the super long hair up top and completely shaved on the sides, and it's already super sweaty when he comes out.
Yeah.
So he looks like Japan's answer to Tennessee trailer park murderers, and he's got a mouthpiece in, and he's doing all these crazy like he goes up to the people who are like right on the edge outside the ring, like all the fans, and he just like starts seizuring right in front of them as they're all going like, yeah, fucking Shinsuke.
One day it's not gonna be fake.
It's not probably if the strobe lights keep up, maybe,
yeah,
but
maybe.
Yeah, but it's just I go and watch various versions of that same entrance on YouTube because it's just so fucking fun to watch him go. And the music's so dope.
Ian, any idea or?
I haven't watched enough wrestling recently to have a favorite. I don't think.
Okay.
Just say Shinsuke Nakamura. Help me out here.
I'll just say the last one I watched. I only watched this clip. I didn't watch the full special. Code Orange Kids. This metal band that I used to like. They played the opening music for a wrestler.
Ooh, who
live
was it?
in the stadium. I forget which wrestler.
Oh yeah. Second, I think. Maybe not second, but like an honorable shout out would be Sin Cara.
Okay.
The guy who like just comes bolting out right out of the gate and just somersaults into the ring.
So we're talking
even when he fails, it's great.
You're
'cause he
talking
fails.
modern. You're talking modern ones.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember in the 90s.
Ooh, yeah.
I remember being literally terrified of the Undertaker coming out.
Original Undertaker entrances.
You'd hear this woman being like, ooh.
Oh yeah,
bong.
That shit was haunting.
And like you would see the blue lights or the purple lights on his face as he'd walk up. And he's already big.
He comes out and he's lit from below, so he looks bigger. And he's got the fucking
6'8",
leather duster and the fucking Amish hat.
Yeah, 6'8", 6'10", and he's
got
coming
the
out there,
black eyeshadow,
and then he's got the long things over there. And I'm just looking there, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
why would anyone want to wrestle him? But then
he's a monster.
But then you see like. But, you know, he's big, but then you see, like, the great Khali, that one wrestler that was for a while.
A bigger guy, but, like, that entrance that you brought up just had so much fucking presence.
Yeah.
And was so intimidating.
Dude, that promotion, and I forget who is responsible for making him the Undertaker, because he was Mark Calloway, his real name.
I remember looking up, like, all of his, like, early days stuff, and, like, it did take him a while to, like, come to the Undertaker persona, and like,
but when he got it, oh my gosh.
And I remember Stone Cold Steve Austin saying, like, yeah, if you could give that gimmick to 100 wrestlers and watch 99 of them die with it,
yeah,
and he made it work. He owned that shit.
Well, Stone Cold too.
Yeah,
he was stunning Steve Williams in WCW, and he was terrible, and like
you just gotta find the thing.
By the way, Austin, if you're listening to this somehow, I don't know why.
I don't know.
You're awesome,
he's a worldly gent.
Yeah, but I think the point is that, and I think Austin would probably say this, is like there's points where in that arena or as professional sports you have to just keep going and trying different stuff, you know, and if you really want it, I mean, obviously not everyone's going to succeed, but you try to adapt.
It's a mix of like perseverance, talent, and circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And like all three of those things kind of have to coalesce at one point or another for you to make it. But,
yeah, totally.
You know, at least two of those you control.
Yeah, man, professional wrestling. Oh my gosh. Have you ever been to a match?
I have not.
I have not either.
I want to, but like
I was gonna take my nephew. They're like it's $50 for the terrible seats.
Yeah, which
like
is why
like you can't even you can see just two figures moving in the ring.
I gotta make real money before I can go to even one of those, or like make friends with somebody who has real money.
Yeah. What's your all like? What are each of yours? A place on your bucket list that you really, really want to go to, but you do need you need to save a little money, or either you don't need to save money and there's just a place you really, really want to go to.
One place I really want to go is, I want to go to Ireland, and I want to like go to the coast and see like the Giant's Causeway and shit, and like just the rolling hills and the cliffs and the ocean and shit.
Ireland, I've been a while ago. It's beautiful.
I love it. Yeah. Hence, yeah. Also, I want to
totally worth it.
I want to check out the Mongolian steppe.
The Mongolian steppe.
It's just like the fucking
part of the Eurasian steppe.
Yeah. It's just the rolling fields and hills in Mongolia and crossing over into Eurasia.
Huh.
And like there are groups of people there who still live as they did like centuries ago, riding their small but reliable horses and cooking soup by putting a hot rock into broth and like.
Dude,
singing fucking Tuvan throat singing, which is fucking incredible.
Oh, Mongolia. Okay, I started to hear that a little bit ago with all.
Yeah, I remember you were.
Online.
I remember when like we were working at camp together, and you were like going around asking people for like music that they like recommendations for music that like to help meditate to, and I gave you fucking Tuvan throat singing. Like, yeah, but like that shit is incredible, and like just that whole like both. Like
you know what's even
both
more
geographically and culturally, I want to go to the Mongolian steppe just to like check all of that stuff out.
That'd be awesome.
What's even crazier than Mongolian throat singing is Inuit throat singing.
Oh boy, I have not heard that.
I found this woman Tanya Tagak, and it sounds like she's giving birth pretty much.
Cool. When you say Inuit, do you mean Native American, Indian, or
like, Native American? She's from northern Canada.
Okay, so she's one of the tribes.
Yeah,
one of the provinces.
Farther north in the colder regions. Yeah,
maybe. Yeah, I might be getting it wrong with Inuit. It may be another First Nation up there.
Yeah,
just the general like farther north colder region.
Here's okay. So this obviously we go back and forth between all of our subjects, but here's a question that I've tried to wrestle with. Okay, so the Native American logos in sports.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I try to like look at it and see back and forth of different people's opinions and whatnot. I brought up one time the opinion of like, I don't get offended by the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, even though I'm Irish. But then again, I'm not full Irish. I'm like one quarter or so. But like, I don't know. It's like kind of one of those things like, I don't know. I had some friends who vehemently disagreed with me and were like upset that I didn't believe what they wanted to believe because I wasn't confirming their, reality. Of like the Washington Redskins and the Cleveland Indians. I actually have, I admit it, I have a Cleveland Indians hat with Chief Wahoo on it. I don't know.
Yeah. You brought the comparison to the Fighting Irish, and I would say this in response to that, like, we aren't, you and me, we didn't grow up in a country where the Irish were, systematically killed basically for who they were. Yeah. Like if we were living in Ireland or in any part of the United Kingdom or that region, that has its own history where
every area.
The famine, the troubles, all that stuff.
Yep.
Where if you were to have like an English team play under that sort of name with that sort of logo, it would probably stir up a lot more trouble than it does here.
Yeah.
Which is why I think that like that sort of thing happening over there and the Native American caricatures happening over here are more comparable than the Irish thing happening here.
Totally. And that, that right there, that's one of the most competent responses I've ever heard. But like, I feel like a lot of times right now, if you don't come together and hold the opinion that most people or some people do online, people start to freak out. They're like, "Oh, you're racist, or you're sexist, or you're whatever."
And there is like a steady death of nuance on the internet everywhere. Like in any community that you go to, like anybody who tries to have any kind of nuance on a heated topic will get shouted down. Will get placed into the opposite group by whatever group is responding to them. Like if you have any kind of nuance on an issue, people on one side will say, "Oh, you're on this side," and people on the opposite side will say, "Oh, you're on that side." And there is no existence on a scale. There's black and white. But it's every issue you have to kind of take on a sliding scale. And I feel like we have, all of us through internet culture, been conditioned to have less of a sliding scale and more of a 0 to 100.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like trying to vamp things up so people start caring about it, and then there's like 100,000 likes, and they're trying to,
Yeah. But I mean, like the issue of the specific issue of the the offensive mascots. Like I am generally on the side of people who are against them, people who want them to change, because like when I see arguments for them, like it's always generally to the effect of, well, it's always been this, so why do we need to change it?
Yeah,
why is it
totally.
Why is it suddenly offensive? And it's like the people on the other side, the people who are not just white activists who are offended on someone else's behalf, but like actually like Native American people saying that it's not okay, saying like, it was always not okay for us. We're just now being heard on it.
Yeah.
So like,
just like Standing Rock in was it South Dakota?
Yeah. It's not that it's suddenly not okay. It's just that now you're hearing us saying that it's not okay, which we've been saying to each other for a long time. And like, there is even in that camp on any particular issue, there's the people who don't have skin in the game, who are basically like, I've talked about this before, who are doing like a performative sort of like they're doing a performative sort of offense on other people's behalf to get woke points. Mm-hmm. And then there's the people who actually do have skin in the game, or who are willing to listen to those people who are in a different level of it, where they actually care about the issue rather than showing how much they care about the issue. They just want it to change.
Yeah. Totally. I mean, I when I'm looking at certain different topics online or wherever else it might be, one of them that I was just trying to make sense of stuff. And it's really hard, I think, sometimes on the internet to make sense of stuff.
Right.
Because there's a million people with opinions. And sometimes it just seems like this back and forth of like who has the one upper of a wit.
I'm remembering a unique saying that I heard one time comparing opinions, and I believe it was assholes. That a lot, possibly even all people have them, and most of them don't smell particularly good. Yeah, something to that effect.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. I would argue that's probably a fair point, because a lot of people I feel a lot of people, again, back to tribalism, like people just want to be right.
Mm-hmm. My God,
they've actually thought stuff out. Yeah. Like here's an example.
So many people have a problem with admitting when they're wrong.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, like we can circle back to cocaine, we can circle back to heroin, but like the most addictive drug in the world is whatever chemical is released in your brain when your preconceived notions are confirmed, when it's confirmed that you were right.
Yeah, or someone says yes to you if you're going out on a date or whatever. There's certain things.
Yeah, but like whenever you're confirmed to have already been right, that is the most addictive shit in the world. Which is why fake news, not even in the Trump sense, but like fake news as in like headlines specifically concocted to appeal to your
emotions,
your preconceived notions, your emotions, your preconceived notions are so. Sorry, beer burp. So prevalent. Philosophy, beer burp.
Blood orange. That's delicious.
That's why they're so prevalent, is because the feeling that people get when they see a headline that confirms what they already firmly believed, it's addictive. Yeah. And you want to share it with other people who think the way you do, which is why it spreads so much and why it's so hard to disprove. Yeah. Because people get dug in because that's the thing that gives them the chemical that they like in their brain.
And they like what they're hearing. Yeah. The one example that threw me for a loop that I started saying to people who I felt were, putting stuff on their profiles, friends of, or I don't know if friends is the right word, maybe acquaintances, who are saying stuff that just sometimes seem like so crazy. I would ask them, I'd be like, are Nazis bad? And
I mean,
they would be like, yeah, they're pretty bad. Like from their ideological, from history, from economic, political, what they did to people, whatever. And I'd be like, okay, we can all agree on that. Definitely.
Very easy baseline to establish.
But here is something that I've heard, Rogan talked about this on his podcast, and, a few other different people mentioned this. This concept that a lot of people are questioning what happened in history and then saying that certain things of history should not have happened. Like, for example, World War II, 50 to 60 million deaths, maybe even more. Different governments fighting, this whole thing of like the European nations basically causing the whole world to fight each other or whatever it was, all these different things.
Right.
But then I say to the point, I'm like, okay, so was the Allied defeat of the Axis power important? Meaning the Americans, the Russians, even though we fought them later on in the Cold War,
right,
and the Brits beating the Italians, who then turned over and to the Allied side, and the Germans being the real Axis power. Was that defeat important? And people will generally say yes. Okay, I'm glad you established that, because sometimes I hear people say World War II, the British, the Americans, the French, whoever else, totally barbaric, all the things they did, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but like, you're saying right now that Nazis are bad in the present day, and then yet you're debating the validity of World War II and how it ended. Like, I know it's two different scenarios, but it's like, you know what I mean? Like, are Nazis, again,
well, I mean,
I don't know.
Yeah. And that is an issue. Again, it's sort of the issue of like online discourse completely like strangling the idea of nuance. Yeah. Because like you can be up against objective balls to the wall evil and be against it, and that's good, and you can still on the other side do terrible things yourself. Yes. And one doesn't excuse the other.
Yeah. Carl Jung actually talked about that a lot with people understanding that you have that everyone has a good and a dark side.
Yeah. And it's all about what you choose to act on. Yep. And even simultaneously, you can be resisting absolute, clearly black and white evil like the Nazis, and still be doing very, very far to the other side of the spectrum shit, like Japanese internment camps, like the atomic bombs on civilian population. On all the shit that Britain did to India and other areas during World War II,
or what?
Fucking everything Stalin did.
Like you said, yeah. Oh my God, Stalin.
Yeah.
If you have not understanding this is something I've actually tried. Understanding communism and the fact that certain forms of economic government just don't work in the way that humans interact with one another. I mean, I know people have a lot of critiques of capitalism, but communism is not a solution. Like there are at least 50 to 100 million people that are dead because of those systems.
It kind of trips me up when people idealize like the Soviet communist leaders.
Because shit didn't work out. But like that's
or they use like gulags as a joke. That's that's a new thing.
That's like, it's like, dude, there was literally a point where the smartest farmers were killed. Like because they were smart and because and like the people were convinced that like they were the reason they were being oppressed. It wasn't really realizing that Stalin actually, was a psychopath and like took over the government. And,
and that's something that I've noticed where, especially what Ian was saying about how people will, especially younger people who are more politically active, will kind of idealize like Soviet communism, and I just feel like there's an issue where like either people will completely venerate what a system is on paper despite its real world applications, or they will take the real world applications as evidence that it can never work and the ideas themselves should be dismissed out of hand. Like, I never graduated college, but I do remember taking poli-sci classes and just like reading through the book outlining all of the different like political ideologies across the spectrum. And I just remember almost every, not all of them, but almost every one of them, I would read through them and find at least something worthwhile. And even in the ones where I was reading through them and I was finding a lot that I agreed with, I would find stuff that I had issue with, which is why, to either effect, whether they're saying that a system is all good or that it's all bad and should be dismissed, I'm always hesitant of people who like preach one exact pure ideology, because if you give them that book and you make them read that ideology's entry in the book, they'll probably either find something that they take issue with in the ideology that they previously venerated, or they'll find something in the ideology that they previously dismissed and hated, and find at least one thing that they liked. Because,
and it's not like you're gonna get it. It's not like you're gonna get it right this time. We're not smarter than other people trying out these whole systems of government or economics or whatever else they're trying to do over a group of people. Like Russia, basically, like having the revolution in the 19 teens with Rasputin, and then the Tsar being killed, and then Bolshevism, and then Lenin. Like that was like this pure thing of chaos that no one wants. And like whenever I hear someone critique capitalism, I'm like, okay, I'm on board with you. Like there are many corporations and individuals like the Google guy, Jeff Bezos.
Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, all these fuckers.
Billions and billions of dollars.
More money than a person could feasibly spend.
Yeah, literally you could buy your own country.
And yet there are people who work for them on food stamps or dying of poverty.
Now there is something to be said. To be fair, there is something to be said about the individual and work ethic and certain other things. Yeah. So it's not a black and white, like you were saying, thing. But and there are critiques again of capitalism that are very, very valid. But again, I know people don't like hearing this, but Jordan Peterson, the guy I was talking about, he mentioned this before. And I know that he has a lot of stuff that you listen to it and you're like, okay, this guy, he might be somewhat crazy on some of the things he believes.
Again, I haven't heard what he's saying, so I'm relying on you two who are familiar with him.
Okay.
Contextualize
have you heard the issue that people have with him?
Just from this conversation that we've had over the last hour and a half.
Okay.
He's a professor in, I think, University of Toronto.
From Canada.
Yeah, and people are calling him transphobic because he refused to call people by they, their pronouns or Zer.
He basically said, you cannot force me to say that. But he didn't go out and try to and again, I sound biased as I'm saying this, like I'm favoring him, but he didn't go out and like say like I hate trans people or whatever else, but he took a stand and said I'm not going to use these pronouns. And the thing is that, again, think about the human condition. When someone says I'm not going to use like that thing that is most personal to you, everyone looks at many people, not everyone, but many people look at him and say, well, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And he says, no, I just don't. I am in charge of my own language, basically.
Right. And I get that, but just based on the information that I've received just now, it is I mean, like, it is what people live by. So,
yes.
So I mean, like,
totally.
He is technically right. I can't force him to say a certain thing a certain way, but there is a certain point at which you have a freedom to make choices, but the choices you make will affect how I think of you. And like I'm not in any of the particular groups that might be affected or offended by that. So I don't really feel like I have the clout with which to definitively weigh in on it. But
to be fair, he is on the conservative side of the political spectrum. He makes no.
He rants against cultural Marxism.
Yeah, he basically says that cultural Marxism and what he calls the postmodernist movement have ruined universities in a certain regard. And, you know, to be fair, one point when he says, like, when a university says we have to have a safe space for people, you're sitting there and you're like, okay, no person should be attacked on their, you know, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation.
Which should, like, just on a logical level, like, just implicitly should just be society. Like, you can't really, like, there's a limit to which you can enforce that, but like, it should just be common sense for people not to attack people based on those sort of lines. You would hope
so, but
I see it as an overreach. If colleges decide that they won't use certain textbooks and therefore impede the education to create a safe space.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, no, and it really. But, like, to go back to his point that I think is more relevant to what we were, well, at least, you know, one of the points, is he was basically saying what we were saying earlier about how, like, there are so many ideas you can come up with for, like, a political system, an economic system, the type of music you're creating, whatever else it is, right? But then at some point you have to look at the feasible number of things that are actually going to work. And although communism, you might look at it and you be like, okay, people are going to get a fair share, people are going to be able to get food, these resources and all these other things. It may sound like a good idea, but at the same time, like, it did not go well in China, in North Korea, in Russia. And so you have to figure out what ideas are plausible. Yeah. Everyone is on. I think if you're not on board with the idea that the our attitude towards the environment needs to change, that you really need to reassess how you see the world and whatnot. Yeah. But how we do that needs to be thought out. It can't just be, you know, ordered, I guess you could say.
If part of your solution isn't ending the pollution, then I don't want to hear your stories told. I want to welcome you to Scatman's world. Sorry, I had to do it. You said that, I had to do it.
What is that?
That's Scatman's world. From Scatman John.
Okay.
It's a beautiful vision of what the world could be, as brought to you by either Scatman John or Gene Roddenberry.
Is this just an artist, or is this a TV show?
This is an artist. He did two songs that people know. He did "I'm the Scatman" and "Scatman's World," one of which I just quoted to you. But cool. Going back to our nuanced political discussion, that brief Scatman John interlude. I just wanted to say, like, one thing that I've frequently heard people say in an argument for communism is, or an argument against communism is, oh yeah, well, it works on paper, and like that's what I'm saying. Like, those ideas do sound pretty great when you write them all out.
Yeah.
It's just that when you start factoring in human error and human greed, especially,
oh my gosh,
it starts to become an issue, because like capitalism, you know, it's right there on its face where human greed comes into play. It's very obvious, but
I think little by little, it's starting to be like people are waking up to the fact, like, hey, like
That there's massive inequality.
Yeah, there's so massive inequality
Insane
that
inequality.
homelessness and not being able to afford places
or people in other
one that gets me is healthcare.
Yeah, people in third world countries who harvest cocoa and have never who harvest cocoa for Hershey's and have never tasted Hershey's chocolate.
Yeah,
that's insane. Or tasted chocolate of any kind. But like basically like the face of greed on capitalism is very apparent, whereas on communism, when you look at it on paper, it doesn't show up. But when you put it into action,
humans,
you get some very powerful people controlling the system, and then everybody's standing, waist deep in snow, waiting for a couple beats.
It's like have you ever read the tenets of Buddhism? Like a lot of it
talks, a long time ago, but
a lot of it talks about just one of the fundamental ideas is to not desire shit. And the reason why, and the Dalai Lama, if you've never listened to any of his speeches or the documentary on Netflix,
desire is the root of all suffering.
You basically you realize that material items are in fact mortal, that they will be destroyed little by little, and that material items will never ultimately be your source of happiness because you'll always be wanting more and more and more and more. Yeah. But at the same time, humans don't like stagnation. Like most of us can't just sit and in a chair and stare off into the trees like I've tried to do at meditation all day long because I want to go out to the bar and have a beer with my friends. Or I try not to just buy clothes, but at some point my shirt might be tattered and so I broken or whatever.
Yeah, we all have a need for certain resources that we need to live, especially to live comfortably.
But you said, need versus greed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think everybody in this room has a pretty reasonable.
All three of us.
Yeah. Everybody in this room has a pretty reasonable cap to where their needs and wants go.
Yeah.
And if you adjust that for how much money those needs and wants cost, and you spread that out to everyone on the planet, it's more or less feasible to make sure that amount of resources is met for everyone. If somebody isn't accruing an exorbitant amount of wealth, an exorbitant amount of material gain.
It's essentially what Gandhi said. He said the world has enough for, he said mans, you should say humans, because I think it's more inclusive, but for man's need, but not for greed. And it's
exactly.
It's like you want to sit there and grab Zuckerberg or whoever else. I think Zuckerberg's actually done a good job with charity from what I've read because he's such in the public eye.
Yeah.
But
his business practices behind closed doors are a different issue. But
but you want to grab some of them and shake them by the head and just be like, dude, I'm not saying give away your billions, but talk about freaking how is the future of the planet going to go? Because we can't keep buying plastic bags and throwing them into the fucking ocean. Yeah. Have you heard of the
plastic garbage patch?
Yeah.
Garbage Island,
bigger than Texas above Hawaii. Yeah. It's the earth is a living breathing thing. I'm not trying to get all hippie and stuff, but the part of me that grew up in a liberal household of just seeing trees grow from the earth. How the hell does that happen? Because there's literally nutrients and there's this perfect scenario of where life is available on Earth, back to aliens.
Everything's connected. It's all a feedback loop.
Not to sound
and if you cut off a piece of that feedback loop specifically to feed yourself, then guess what? The loop stops working, and then everybody runs out of everything, including you.
Not to sound like Avatar, when he goes with his girlfriend and they're connection of energy and all this whatever.
It's basic cause and effect.
Yeah. And it's like when I brought this up one time at a summer. So I've worked at, besides the summer camp, I've worked at several summer, which by the way, if you're young, if you're 19 to 22,
please
25,
do it. I recommend it to everyone my
counselor.
age.
I guarantee you won't.
I recommend it to everybody my age.
So much fun. It's so much fun.
So much fun. A lot of personal growth. It's great.
Yeah. But I said this one time to a group of camp counselors and they looked at me like I was I literally told them the boogeyman was real. We were going to a all-you-can-eat sushi restaurant, and we wasted probably 2 pounds of food, and we ended up stuffing it in our face because otherwise we were going to have to pay for it, kind of this deal the restaurant had. But I just watched people eating around there, and I by no means am a perfect angel. I'm still a consumerist. I have a lot of habits I need to work on.
Right.
I'm still trying to learn little by little. But I was looking around at this situation of an all-you-can-eat sushi restaurant, and I was sitting there and I was like, we are like eating ourselves into the grave. And this thing of greed versus need, people just say, well, I just went and ate and just fucking ate till my stomach was full. And it's like, yeah, but the overpopulation fishing that the Japanese are doing, and then we buy that tells them to do more. Mm-hmm. And if those, and nature, there might be an infinite universe, but Earth, flora, fauna,
goes back
people,
to what we said. It's just us in here, as far as we know, and as far as we're capable of.
It's
of
limited resources, and like again, if oil spills and ruins the ocean, there's no plan B. It's not like a one night stand in Vegas,
right? Yeah,
and the permafrost thawing right now too.
What's up?
Yeah,
in the north, the permafrost is thawing, and releasing tons of methane, which is worse than carbon dioxide.
You know that. Sorry.
And I was just gonna say, there can be a discussion on how much we're contributing to it, but you can't debate the fact that it's fucking happening.
Yeah.
Like when people say, "Oh, I don't believe in that shit," it's like
James Inhofe walking to the Senate floor, like, "I just found a snowball outside the Senate building. That proves it's not global warming."
I just really want to run over and just punch him in the face because
he's in charge of the fucking environmental committee.
See, this is when people said they were like, "I want change with Trump. I want like I want a what's it called? Reorder? No. Drain the swamp or
Drain
whatever.
The swamp, yeah, shake up.
Shake up, right?
Yeah.
This is that's a bad shake up. A person who is not competent in science to say, science is just theory. It's like, well, gravity is a theory, but if you lay down and I put a brick over your face, is it just a theory that I'm going to drop it and it's going to smash your face?
Remember the girl at camp who didn't believe in gravity?
No.
Oh,
what?
Boy. Yeah,
was this a camper?
This was a camper. This was a camper who we had.
Her name.
Of course, we're not going to use her name.
What's her name? Her name is George.
Yeah, her name is George, and George grew up in a household. I don't know what the fuck her parents were telling her. I don't know if they actually believe this, or if I asked her, or if I asked her parents, they'd just be like, "This shit again." I don't know. But either way, she straight up did not believe that gravity existed. And like,
did you take a rock and just drop it by her feet?
We said like, okay, you just walked to you just walked to the peak today. You just did the hike, the big hike that we do every week to the peak. Do you think that if you jumped off that peak, you'd be fine because there's no gravity? And her explanation for why heavy things fall to the ground was, and I quote, "It's gods and spirits that pull us to the ground, and that's why we fall." And like, I swear to God,
it's Satan reaching from hell.
She was not fucking with me. Like
reading Harry Potter and stuff.
I know what she was like when she was making jokes. This was a level of commitment that I had never seen from her. That was in her blood.
So like, I was thinking about this the other day. You want to know one of the at least from my perspective, one of the worst things you can say to a person to insult them is that they're stupid.
Yeah.
You could call someone fat, you can call them ugly, whatever else, but like, I feel like...
because our society places more value on being smart nowadays, too.
Yeah, but the fact that people say, "Oh, well, it's the internet and everyone's allowed to have their own opinion about stuff," whatever else, it's like, yeah, but like...
Flat Earth?
There's people... Yeah, exactly. And there's people voting who have the exact same rights we do. Now, again, as a history teacher, as like, you know, embracing history, a democracy, a republic, code of law and order and stuff, every person should have the vote. I totally get that. But when there's a portion of the population that legitimately has every resource we do and is literate, you hope they're literate, that they can read and whatnot.
I mean, or at least, I mean Trump can't.
Or watch video. Yeah, right? But it's like, and then they go to vote and they say, "No, the environment is not being destroyed right now by this oil company doing this thing over here." It sounds
because
like,
James Inhofe found a snowball.
Yeah, it's like, no, it sounds like you just don't. You have been told by them that alternative energy is going to be more destructive than the oil, and it's just like
you have been fed a narrative. You're invested in it to the point where changing your mind would be emotionally detrimental to you, and so now you physically can't back out of it.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel.
Because it would hurt too much.
That's exactly how I feel every time when I see people my age getting married and having kids. And then you have that underlying feeling of like the rest of your friends and your family or whoever else, they won't say it out loud because, they won't, at least to me, because I'm very vocal about leaving me the fuck alone. But they'll say like, well, when are you getting married? When are you having kids? And you're like, oh, did I buy my girlfriend like a big enough diamond ring, or did I have the right car? And it's just like, you're sitting there and you're like, this, I get that certain things we think are better, like a Mercedes versus a whatever car or whatever else. Yeah. But it's also like, what makes you happy? It's like,
all that shit. All that shit is arbitrary. Like you even hear like with engagement rings, the rule of thumb is 3 months salary. All that shit was that is a direct quote from a fucking ad campaign by the fucking De Beers Diamond Company, who basically invented the engagement ring as we know it to sell diamonds, and then came up with that campaign to convince you to spend more on diamonds, so on and so forth. Which is why I think even if you agree with marriage as an institution, engagement rings are bullshit.
But just like Kaepernick taking a knee, I think there's a lot of people that are realizing that a lot of things are being questioned. In fact, most of the culture is being questioned, and they don't like that. And so they say, no, make America great again. It's like, dude,
that's a chant. That's not a platform.
Yeah, it's like, when was America great? In the 50s, when we were segregated between schools, in 1915, 5 years before women could vote, like,
when children could work in factories, when we had slaves. Tell me when I've gone too far back.
In terms of economics and stuff like that, like people who shit on like the Democrats and are like FDR and this commie and like, what do you call it? Minimum wage. It's like, did you ever read a portion of history or watch the movie? Do you ever see Newsies with Christian Bale?
Yes, I have. So
the newspaper strike of 1899 in New York. Did you ever see a point in history where like businesses were just like, yeah, we'll pay the workers as much as we can? Right? That's exactly what happened in Oliver Twist, right?
You don't need any kind of minimum to enforce that. We promise we'll pay them something they can live on.
But it's just like, live on. And like living wage, like now of like, granted, California is a beautiful
At any time in America's history, you could go, do that in this economy?
Yeah, exactly.
You can. That's a feasible excuse.
It just sucks. It's like, I feel like there's a real paradigm shift in economics, in social, in cultural. Everything right now is just out there for debate. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, okay, what is going to make it through this that I still believe in, that I can still hold to? Because
what's the nugget of truth in here?
Because like, I fully admit that Thomas Jefferson had a terrible, sexual assault, rape-based interaction with Sally Hemings, the woman, his slave,
and probably others we don't know about.
And she was like 15, 16 when this occurred.
Yes.
Right. So I hear this and I'm like, okay, he's not actually the saint I thought he was. But then I'm also like, you read the Declaration of Independence and I'm like, dude, that is one of the best pieces of writing I've ever seen.
Right.
How do we figure this out? But like, sometimes it's just, like you see things and they're just like kind of changing.
Yeah. And like, that's the hardest part of having nuance in a conversation, is admitting that really objectionable, terrible people can occasionally have a good idea, and people who have a lot of really good ideas and seem to be really good people can occasionally do objectionable, terrible things.
You wonder if like research is ever going to come up to say that Steve Jobs was actually like one of the worst people to ever exist.
I mean,
but like then he created the iPhone and everyone like has a boner over him,
Yeah. I mean, like that is pretty much the trend. That's what we do pretty much. But it all comes to light after the fact, but like it is just it's up to everybody to kind of take it on their own case-by-case basis, but they do kind of have to evaluate it, is like at what point you throw the baby out with the bathwater. Because like when you get to an extreme, like, Nazism and fascism, that's when you start just throwing the ideology out wholesale.
That's what.
But then when you get to somebody who had good ideas but could prove themselves to be an objectionable person, or somebody who had some objectionable ideas but prove themselves to otherwise be a decent person, that's when it gets a little bit more messy, when you start throwing out the core with everything else.
Communism and utopia would be great in a utopian society.
Yeah, that's why I like Star Trek. It's basically that.
But we can't. But I don't think the level of human consciousness and getting past greed and getting past ego and getting past like trying to one up each other with boats or whatever the fuck you're buying.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if we can do that. I don't think we can.
And that
at least at this point in time.
And that just goes back to what we were saying earlier, need versus greed. Like everybody has basic needs. They have their like practical needs of food. They have their physical needs of food, water, shelter, clothing. Those are the core needs, which resource-wise we can easily meet for everyone if we distribute it properly. Yeah. And then you have more
definitely with food. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then you have more complex needs, like you have your emotional needs, your spiritual needs, all things that it's more up to the individual. Like you can give people food, clothing, shelter, water, all that stuff, and like it'll pretty much work across the board, whereas like all that stuff is more up to the individual and what they need. But like really when you get down to it, all those needs can be fulfilled by the resources we have available on this planet. It's just that some people are so focused on accruing those resources for themselves that there's not enough to go around for everyone else.
There's a combination of this, that because I read a lot in my spare time, and I just do it. I honestly just do it just to kind of like hear different ideas, really. But Carl Jung, The Spiritual Problem of Modern Man, is a book. I have a book, and then his article is inside that. It talks about basically how after the Industrial Revolution, like Nietzsche, everybody freaked out because like machines were doing everything, and so the belief in God started to dip down. And then Nietzsche actually is credited with, many historians will say, at least as far as I know, I could be wrong, but that he predicted the world wars. That the fact that we went from cottage industry, small farms, religion, all this stuff to
huge
industrial revolution, and then people realizing, well, if all these machines are possible, then maybe God doesn't exist, and then there was a crisis of faith. And so Carl Jung, this is like a long time ago, this is like 70, 80 years ago when he wrote this, but like the spiritual problem being like you're trying to figure out how to find meaning in life and how to find things that are worthy. But I think that, again, like, the thing that materialism doesn't do and whatever else is like to get inner peace. Like when you've really felt inner peace in life, was it because you bought a new shirt?
Nope.
You know what I mean? Like it gave you momentary happiness, right? Or like you created a tape or whatever else it might have been. But like those points where you were really out of bliss, it was like a simple, fun hangout with friends, right? Or like smelling the ocean, or like tasting a new fruit or something. Simple things that,
or like seeing a mountaintop view.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh my God, this is just breathtaking.
Exactly. But all of those moments are necessitated on having a certain core level of needs met.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially food, and this is when you talk about like the struggling populations of that social ladder really not being there, only to a certain degree, because people trying, because rent's more expensive all these days and everything else. Yeah, no, you're right. There, if you don't have the core needs met, it's very hard to find that, meditative, quote unquote, doing meditation and finding that balance.
It is kind of ironic. Like I've had issues with the entire idea of horseshoe theory in the past, and like how it's been applied to like dismiss certain political views, but like the idea that radical to either side is closer to each other than they are to the middle. I did find that kind of applicable in terms of like the fulfillment of people who are either completely deprived of their needs, or people who have way too many resources, more than they would ever need, based entirely on greed. Both of them are kind of incapable of achieving the kind of fulfillment that a human being needs. One, because they're deprived of their basic needs, and their entire life, all their mental and emotional energy is built on trying and struggling to scrape by and fulfill those needs. Yeah. And one, because they've accrued so much wealth, so many resources, that they are completely alienated from everyone else, and they no longer feel actual desire for the things that human beings need, because they have more resources at their fingertips than anyone could ever actually comprehend.
Yeah, and I think it's a what do you call it? Not a dystopia. What the hell is it called? It's like a disengagement as a way, because they don't, it's like when someone says, like, oh, I have to have salmon for dinner or something, whatever else, and it's like, dude, you're talking about like $15 meals, like every meal or something that. Like some people, a meal for $1 if they're lucky, or even making sure they have 3 meals a day.
Relying on food stamps.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's like, and that, like, if you go over, you're talking about that. Now, if you go over to a similar realm, if you're on the same plane of all these topics, if you go over to medicine and healthcare, there is actually one of the quote unquote founders, because I know that word becomes controversial, but one of the founders of the country said, as soon as medicine and health are privatized, the wealthy will have it and the poor will struggle and fight for it. And you're sitting here and you're like, why is medicine, like, I went to the dentist the other day, and I get it. I need clean teeth. Teeth are very important in my health. Yep. But like the fillings and stuff I need to fix my potential cavities and stuff coming up in a couple months, $700 out of pocket.
Yep.
You know, if I'm a celebrity, that's nothing.
Yeah.
If you
can piss that.
If you're a police officer, if you're a teacher, if you are a restaurant manager, if you are a personal trainer or whatever else, that's a lot of money for something to be done. Now, some people say, well, personal individual responsibility to have a hard work ethic to where you can push yourself to have a job to where you can afford these things. It's like, well, how many sustainable jobs are there with robots and shit like that coming up in a society where you can make that amount of money, live a comfortable life, be able to do those things that are necessary for your health? But then also, again, why are the health things so expensive? Why do we think that everything needs to be capitalism, like education and healthcare? Like, right. I'm not saying make every single thing free, because that...
And like,
but
yeah, and
cancer treatment shouldn't be unaffordable.
Yeah, it shouldn't be inaccessible. Obviously, and like that touches on something where, like, I do understand where people are coming from when, like, I see people saying, like, we need to get rid of capitalism. Capitalism is pure evil, shit like that. Like, I understand where you get burnt by that ideology and the kind of people and behavior that it creates.
Yeah.
And to a large extent, I agree with it. But like, I don't think personally that getting rid of capitalism entirely is the way to go, because if Hitler and Mussolini were both trying to get rid of it, then it was doing something right. So like, I do think that like capitalism presenting like the opportunity for like upward mobility based on work ethic is one thing, and like work ethic and ingenuity is one thing, but it needs to be counterweighted with a certain extent of whatever you want to call it, whether you want to call it socialism or communism.
It needs to make
sure that people's basic needs are met and that it's viable for people to move
that's actually
up and down reasonably.
That's one of the arguments for universal basic income.
Exactly. Yeah, I've heard of people in, like, I think it was Switzerland and Canada experimenting with MINCOME or minimum income UBI, whatever name they give to it, and it was generally met with success. So I sincerely doubt that in my lifetime it's going to be in America, but I mean,
it was being tested in the Bay Area by tech companies.
Of course,
yeah, but then
people.
Because the Bay Area wants to be part.
And then the Bay Area, like the second that anybody says, "Oh yeah, I worked in the Bay Area," suddenly every Republican senator will just be able to say, "Oh well, West Coast elitist." Anyway, Brett, thank you for bringing the beer. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And the avocados. Yeah.
Dude, I was saying I bought this thing of where I bought too many avocados and being like, this is my problem today. I bought too many and they're all ripe at the same time, motherfuckers.
Oh, no. It's a juggling act of the avocados. You got to make a bunch of guacamole and freeze it.
Yeah, that, and I think that's what you were saying. It's like, you got to just find the solution and then kind of just,
Yeah, but I did recently have an experience that kind of caused me to distance myself from avocados for a while.
What was that?
I was at work.
And you put some on your face?
No, not quite. Sorry. Although that has happened before. No, I was at work, and I'm in a truck all day, and we're driving all around the county. So sometimes we wind up taking lunch at one of the Goodwill warehouses or stores. But most of the time, we just end up taking lunch on the street in the truck or at a gas station or something, and we just eat in the truck. And about a month ago, one of my drivers that I was assigned with for the day, I was sitting shotgun in the truck. We were eating our lunch outside of a Del Taco on Claremont Drive, and he just pulls out, we both have our prepackaged lunches. We weren't actually eating at the Del Taco. We were just parked outside it. And he pulls out his lunch from the bag. He eats his sandwich and stuff. And then he pulls out an avocado. And I've been asking everyone that I know whether or not they've ever seen this or think that this would be normal. And I so far have not gotten a yes. He takes the avocado and just eats it as if 'twere an apple. Just
bites into the skin.
He bit into the skin?
He bit into the skin and ate the whole avocado, the whole thing, stem and all, sucked the pit clean.
Are you sure he wasn't on meth?
If he was a very reliable driver.
Apparently. Okay, in my experience in life, I've never seen someone do that, and I actually would find that if I had to do that, I'd find it a way of torture.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I've been distancing myself more and more from the avocado because I saw that, and like nobody I've asked has said that they thought that was normal or even reasonable.
I mean, it's funny because it's like, people say they're like the most nutrients for an orange are in the peel.
True,
but then
But God, at what cost?
No, I don't.
With a lot of fruits,
the
the most nutrient rich is the skin.
Yeah.
Is it?
Which is why
I did not know that.
Which is why I like using zest in cooking. Like, you take the peel and you just zest it in. I'm not gonna eat that thing. It's like eating a shoe.
Oh my gosh! When you say zest, there was I don't know how many commercials you've watched in your life, but there was this soap called Zest Fully Clean.
That sounds familiar.
I think it was just called Zest. And then you ever hear those commercial logos that get like super just like what's one that everyone knows? Coca Cola. Do 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 do. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. I know that was terrible singing, or humming or whatever the fuck that was. But like Zest Fully Clean was a soap, and the commercial was great to the point of where my parents bought Zest, and then we actually wore it. We actually used it in the shower, and I think we found out that we were highly allergic to it.
Oh, fun!
Yeah, it's like, oh man, the advertising got me again.
The TV product that Jack and I received, Floby haircuts.
What's that?
Oh yeah, it's
like a vacuum
you
that
hook
you use
up
for haircuts. Yeah,
you
pulls the hair up.
Well, it's a set of trimming tools that you hook up to your house vacuum cleaner, and then it sucks the hair up in and goes and just chews your hair off and sucks it into the vacuum.
It kind of hurts to get a haircut.
It hurts and it's loud. It goes, and then it eats your hair.
Wait. But like, there's no actual, like, where you do scissors and stuff like that. It's just, literally pulls it out?
When our mom did our Floby haircuts, I'm sure she did, like, touch-ups with scissors, but, like, it is, like, an auto... Like, I guess, like, the suction of the vacuum causes the blades to move back and forth, but it just...
Yeah.
There's, like, a plastic guard on it, and you can adjust it for whatever length you want, and then you would put it to the victim's scalp, and the vacuum air would suck the hair up into the blades, and then they would chew off your hair. I really can't come up with a better word other than chew, because it wasn't cutting.
It's horrifying.
You could hear it gnawing.
Afterwards, you're like, what?
You could hear it gnawing on your scalp fauna.
You're like bleeding in like 4 or 5 different spots.
I mean, if you want it short enough, yeah. But yeah, it would just go.
That's funny.
And it would just chew up your scalp fuzz.
You ever watch like, you see like late night commercials and there's always that like
head on, apply directly to the forehead. Head on, apply directly to the forehead.
All of a sudden you're like bald. You ever see like those?
If you want to talk to hot girls in your area.
If you or a loved one has developed mesothelioma, you may be entitled to financial compensation.
You know why? I only have this as a theory, but you know why advertising in the middle of the night is so shit? It's because it's like, it doesn't have to really make sense. Like, yeah, there's like the boner pills on every channel. They're like, oh, male enhancement, and the women are like, yeah, whatever. But then there's like the commercials, so that go away from that stuff, where it's like, has this ever happened to you? Whoa!
How many times has this happened?
There's like a hose that like trips somebody, and it's in black and white, and so they trips them and they fall down. They're like, oh, and they do like a dramatic fall,
or they just open up a drawer and like millions of Tupperware fall out, and they're just like,
falls out everywhere.
What do I do?
But then it's like they're like the solution, and then it goes to color. And it's like, if it's for the hose, it's like a hose that brings it all together and rings it up nice and super tight. So it's all organized. And it's like, you sit there and you're like, yeah, I could really use that in my life. Or I could use 10 pots, or a knife that, like Jerry Seinfeld said in his stand-up in the 90s, he's like, a knife that can cut through my shoes. And you're like, what the fuck do I need a knife that can cut through my shoes
He was right, though. They demonstrated, that was a demonstration that they used in infomercials of like its cutting ability.
I don't know. It's kind of...
It's dumb, no doubt about it. That's why he made a joke out of it, but that was a thing they did in infomercials.
Yeah, it's like, how many things do you need, though, like at some point? But some of the things are very valuable.
The thing that clicked for me is when I found out that some products in infomercials, they're specifically tailored for people with disabilities, problems that they have, and they just put like able-bodied actors in the infomercials.
My gosh.
To make it like they're appealing to a wider marketability.
That's messed up.
Because like it is a huge hurdle for like inventions that are meant to benefit people with disabilities that like they can't get investors because people don't think that that's a wide enough market.
Yeah.
And so like, what Ian said, a lot of them do like change their marketing to where instead of addressing the disability that it was designed to address, it's pretending to address like just some sort of everyday, frustration that nobody actually has.
Have you ever had a big bowl of Cheetos that just spills when you pick up the phone?
No, but somebody with Parkinson's probably failed to hold a bowl.
Cheetos just fucking everywhere, and there's cheese, and it's like you pick them up, there's still like cheese spots everywhere on the ground.
Of course, and those are still hilarious. But when you learn about the context, like some of them are just ridiculous, and like I've even heard from people with disabilities, like that has nothing to do with a disability. That's just a ridiculous product. But like a lot of them are actually designed for people with disabilities, and then they just make those ridiculous ads to like pretend like they're going to a wider marketability to get investors.
I think those workout machines that they put on, like that Chuck Norris did in the 90s and early 2000s and stuff like that.
Total Gym.
I think those are just such a crock of shit because
people use them once and then throw them away.
Yeah, they use it once.
I work at Goodwill. I've done home pickups. I've taken away so many Total Gyms, so many Bowflexes, and so many treadmills.
Because they're just, it's unused. Completely false. No, it's not only unused, it's completely false advertising. Like, you watch the guy, not like Chuck Norris, but someone who's actually like much more, like a bodybuilder, who's super ripped, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to be like that guy who's super ripped.
I've been using this new invention that was just invented 3 months ago to get into this amazing shape that I've been in for 10 years.
No, you didn't. You had a very regimented diet. You lifted weights. You did cardio every freaking day.
You had an insane work ethic focusing exclusively on this. You had good genetics backing you up.
Yeah.
And like, oh yeah, I've looked like this for 10 years because of this thing that was invented 3 months ago.
Yeah. Give me a break. Yeah.
I think we've covered just about everything there is to talk about in existence.
Universe, and
we talked the universe. We talked total gyms.
Social issues.
We talked cryptozoology. We talked economics. I think we've got all the things, guys. So Brett, thank you so much for coming on. It was great having you.
Honestly, man, I've been listening to your podcasts, not since the beginning. I don't want to lie and say that
I'm your biggest fan.
I remember telling you about it.
But like, I really think that you're having a lot of fun, which is super cool, because I think a lot of times people will do art, and I don't know if you consider a podcast art, but you're doing it and just having like a really good time, and that is where I think a lot of the best ideas and stuff come from, is when people just sit back and like, you know what, I'm just gonna like mess around with this and see what happens, and like there's a lot of really really cool things that come from that. So
and like even today, most of my creative work is in some way like an echo of me and my friends just shooting the shit and talking all of our nerdy shit that we did in high school. It's all still a ripple effect from that. So like it really is just people having fun and shooting the shit that really leads to everything else. So
yeah, totally.
And it was really fun shooting the shit with you.
Ditto, man. I appreciate it.
Good meeting you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, so this has been Oh Well You Bastards. I completely forget the context to which we developed that name, but that's
it was with the rats we used to have.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm happy to announce on the podcast officially, no more rats. They are gone.
I was actually gonna say, like, I've been watching videos on YouTube where like they bring in snipers with like airsoft guns and they snipe them from like 30 feet away, but
Yeah.
I guess they're.
I would ask for recommendations just in case they come back, but they're gone, and I can sleep and touch things in my house again without freaking out.
Glad to hear that, man.
Oh, it's so good.
And we did it without an exterminator.
It was
we just trapped enough of
lots of precautions, sanctioning all of our food, and it worked. We're free. We are free, and we're still recording the podcast. So the podcast outlived the rats. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.
Nice.